Welcome aboard, everybody. A Thursday edition of the Sports Bass live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. I'm your host, Mike Gill. Josh Henning producing today's show. You out there. Here we go. A miserable night at Citi Field. 10th straight loss to the Metropolitans, who now trail the NL East by 4 games. They have won 10 straight against the Phillies in that building. A lifeless effort last night by the Phils, who just could not figure out Nolan McClain. It looked like he was a two-faced. He was throwing the pitches here, there, and everywhere. Yeah, the Phillies just could not figure him out last night. That kid's really good, and I want to get into that coming up later on in the show. Obviously, the Phillies' bats absolutely went blank last night. Nolan McClain, by the way, is the young kid's name, and I joke about that because it's a guy that most people never probably heard of, but the Mets did something a couple of weeks ago that the Phillies have yet to want to do. They called up this kid and said, we're throwing you into the fire of a pennant race. Their pitching was really bad, and they needed some help. So they went and found the best arm they could find, and he's 24-year-old Nolan McClain, who's 3-0 with a 0.89 ERA and a 0.69 whip. And they said, we're throwing you into the fire. We need a shot of life. We need a little kick in the butt. We need a little shot in the arm. Nolan McClain gave it to him. Last night, he dominated the game. He was awesome last night. That was a absolute carving up of the Phillies lineup. At one point, he retired, 15 straight? The only guy in the game that showed a pulse was Alec Bohm, which is usually the guy that everybody's complaining about. He had 2 hits. Kepler had a hit last night. You had 1 from Harper, 1 from Turner. 5 total hits in the game, 7 strikeouts for McClain. He went 8 innings in the game. He gave up just 4, had 6 strikeouts. And quite frankly, he dominated the game last night. And on the flip side of this, as I talk about the Mets calling up Nolan McClain in a pennant race situation because they needed a little shot in the arm to their pitching staff, the Phillies roll out Taijuan Walker last night. In the middle of a huge series that you need to win this game to kind of push the Mets back a little bit. You need to just kind of inch them back to 6 games. The guy you have to turn to is Taijuan Walker on the road and say, hey, Taijuan, we all know that nobody has any faith in you, yet we're turning to you in this situation to try to stop this thing. And he was terrible last night. 5 innings, 10 hits, all over the place. They pounded him. Now, listen, the 4 runs he gives up, it's not like he gave up 7 runs in 3 innings. But the 10 hits, he just was pounded all over the place. Had basically, he didn't have much last night. Just didn't have much as he, generally doesn't. But he threw 100 pitches in 5 innings last night, and they had to get him out of the game. And then, of course, the big shot was later on. Now, it didn't matter. Banks gave up the home run, but by that time, the Phillies' offense was basically outclassed, overmatched. It was a eye-opening type of series, and I'd like to hear from everybody out there. 609-403-0973, 609-403-0973. The Phillies get swept by the Mets. Here's a question I have for people out there. I can't figure this one out. Is it a Mets thing or is it a Citi Field thing? Like, do you guys out there think the Mets are just better than the Phillies? Or is it a Citi Field thing? Because the Phillies have beaten the Mets 2 out of 3 at Citizens Bank Park. So I do want to hear your thoughts on that. 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. Is it a Mets thing or is it a Citi Field thing? That's number one. Number two, that was what I was thinking about as I was watching the game last night. Is McClain is a guy that they call up from the minor leagues. He's one of their best prospects. They throw him into the rotation. And all I kept thinking is, would be nice to have Andrew Painter Will be nice to have a little shot in the arm offensively from Justin Crawford. You know, McClain's not the only one. You look around baseball, there's a guy out in Boston right now by the name of Roman Anthony who is helping all of a sudden the Boston Red Sox believe that they can make some noise in the American League. He's probably been the best player on their roster. Since he's been called up, Nolan Anthony's probably been the best guy on that team. And the Red Sox had no problem calling up a 21-year-old kid and saying, you're in the lineup every day. Welcome aboard. Help us out. And he's answered the call. So are the Phillies looking around baseball and getting passed over by all these teams who are progressively making decisions to help their team out? Roman Anthony, 286, 7 home runs, 29 RBI, 65 games played. They called him up about 2 months ago. Should the Phillies have thought about this 2 months ago, that they needed a little life, they needed a little infusion of youth, they needed a little shot in the arm? And you look at that game last night, a lifeless bunch. And I'm not saying they would have won the game last night if Justin Crawford's up here or Andrew Painter's pitching, but it just made me think as I'm looking around baseball right now and looking at some of these pennant races, who are some of the names that stick out? Nolan McClain, his name wasn't talked about a month ago. Roman Anthony, he wasn't talked about a couple months ago. Other teams had no problem dipping into the farm system, and the Phillies are having their issues.
I think there's a big difference that needs to be pointed out here, because I don't think it's as simple as the Mets and Red Sox called up a guy that Phillies didn't. Because, for example, McClain had a 2.45 ERA and 18 starts in the minor leagues. Andrew Painter has not pitched anywhere close to that well in the minor leagues this year. So I think it's a huge difference between a guy who is pitching well and the Mets said, well, we need somebody, you're the guy, versus the guy in Painter who, frankly, there's no guarantee that his control issues are fixed if he comes up to the major leagues.
No, not at all. And I'm not saying, I'm not suggesting that either guy would have saved this game or done anything different. But as I watched that game last night, all I can think of is this team needs something different. They need a little something different. You have the same group of guys going after the same prize again, and they didn't add enough at the deadline. Harrison Bader, nice player.
But that's the key what you just said. They didn't add enough at the deadline, right? This organization is very hyper committed to this group of guys, and it's or else.
Yeah,
right
but Boston didn't add anybody at the deadline that gets you excited. What they did was they improved from within their organization. The Mets didn't go out and get a starting pitcher at the deadline. I'm sure a lot of the Mets fans are saying, how come you didn't go out and get a starter at the deadline? Our starting pitching's terrible. So what did they do? They went down and brought up a guy who is now probably, I would imagine, would be the best pitcher on that staff right now. If you were to say, who would you like to pitch in game one? I mean, is it him or Senga? Maybe, but he's got to be right up there.
He's one of the three, for sure.
Exactly. So these teams didn't go out at the trade deadline and go find other guys. They went out and improved and said, okay, we got guys down here. We got guys down here that can help us out. Mets, our pitching staff stinks. We need a little shot in the arm. The Phillies had a major injury that unfortunately has changed the complexion of their season. And instead of maybe saying, you know what, let's take a shot right now. This guy's got the best stuff in our organization. You're rolling Taijuan Walker back out there. You know the answer to the quiz when Walker's out there. The answer is he's not helping you or pitching in a playoff game.
But this is also a reflection of something that I've heard Ruben Amaro Jr. talk about on the Philly Show podcast, which is, Mike, the development of the minor leagues is a problem. Nolan McClain was a third-round draft pick in the draft in 2023. The Mets took a guy who nobody wanted for 2 rounds and turned him into a guy who could be potentially part of their starting rotation 2 years later. When have the Phillies ever done that?
Baseball draft's tough, man. I mean, it's hard to say, hey, you got a guy in the 3rd round and he's worked out, and this guy, I mean, there's guys playing that are drafted in rounds.
Mick Abel was a first-round pick. I think we all can agree that Nolan McClain is a bit more developed, a better prospect than Mick Abel was.
At this point, he is. I mean, he's certainly been. Now, Mick Abel, if after 2 starts, you would have said he's Nolan McClain. And then now that kind of fell apart.
Sure.
This is 3 starts for him. From what I saw last night, he was really good. Now, that doesn't mean that he can't turn into Mick Abel and start to struggle. The problem with Mick Abel is McLean different. In the minor leagues, his problem wasn't command and control. That's Abel's problem. He got called up by the Twins the other day, and he had a rough day at the office.
He did.
Painter, his problem has not been command and control in the past, like Abel's. He's having problems with that now, and I think that's attached to the fact that he had Tommy John surgery. If he gets called up to the majors right now, does that all go away? I don't know about that. I don't know about that. But my point is this. You're unwilling to trade him. You're unwilling to move any of these guys. And yet you're also unwilling to ask them for help. Like if I say, I could have traded Justin Crawford and I could have improved this ball club, but I chose not to.
Right.
Then the next question is Justin Crawford ready to help this team now? He's at AAA. I can understand if Justin Crawford was doing this at single A. And like I said, I don't put a whole heck of a lot of stock in AAA numbers. Just because Crawford's doing this doesn't mean he's going to come up to the majors and do anything close to what he's doing there. But my point is this. He's either ready or he's not.
Well,
he's hitting 340. Yeah. What more do you want him to do?
Well, I go back to what you said a month ago, Mike, right here on 97.3 ESPN. You said, if I'm the Phillies, I'm not bringing Crawford up until after the deadline because I want to see if I can maybe get something for him first. Well, the deadline's gone. It's August 28th. What are we waiting for? Are you really telling me that the combination of Marsh, Kepler, Castellanos is all, and Weston Wilson, we'll throw his lame rear into this conversation. You're telling me that those 4 are all better options than Justin Crawford. That's what the Phillies are telling us, Mike.
And that's why, the Bader thing, it's a nice deal. I mean,
well, I'm leaving Bader out of it because I think Bader does have a legitimate value for this team.
Yeah, but he might have a legitimate value, but he's not changing the complexion of this team. He's not a difference maker. He's like getting Austin Hayes. Okay, it's a nice player. It's an upgrade over what I had, but it's not a difference maker. This team needed a difference maker. They needed somebody to hit in the middle of the lineup. You can't get away with hitting JT Realmuto 4 and Alec Boehm 5 and think you're going anywhere. Like, let's not kid ourselves. JT Realmuto should not be hitting in the number 4 spot of a World Series championship lineup. Alec Boehm should not be hitting number 5 on a team that wants to win a World Series.
So why do the Phillies think that's okay?
They don't really have another option, but okay, why didn't they go out and find another option? I don't know that other option existed. Maybe the kid, the Suarez was the one guy that you could have said, okay, could you put him in the lineup and have him, be the guy to hit behind Harper? Maybe that was the one guy that you could have said made some sense, and you could have gone out and got a power bat to hit behind Harper in this spot. Now, he's hitting 189 in Seattle, but does have 6 home runs, which is he's got 6 home runs in 25 games, which is a hell of a lot better pace than Realmuto's got.
Oh, also the fact that in theory you would have traded Alec Boehm for the guy, and Alec Boehm's hit 1 home run this month?
Yeah, I mean Boehm, another guy,
he's not a power guy,
just not a guy. Him and Realmuto should not be hitting 4 and 5. They should be hitting 6 and 7, and that's where this team. And look, here's the problem with Crawford. He's not fixing that problem either. He's not going into the lineup and hitting number 4 and hitting 35, 40 home runs. It's just not happening. So this lineup, as we saw again last night, is just completely flawed. It's lifeless at times. It goes up, it goes down. It scores 13 runs one night. It can't score the next. And I know there's a lot of baseball lineups like that all over the league that go up and down, up and down. Here's the difference. This team, we've seen it from with the same guys
year after
year. The Mets, they have been a dreadful team for almost the last 3 months.
And you gave him life.
Vientos hasn't done a damn thing, and then all of a sudden he saw red pinstripes or gray uniforms with red lettering, and he woke up. By the way, as somebody pointed out, and I was going to talk about this because I was reading the article I told you, I think we talked about this the other day, over at ESPN.com. The Mets have the number 1 ranked farm system in baseball. The guy who pitched last night is not even their top pitching prospect.
No.
You're going to see him pitch tomorrow night, I think.
But this is my issue. I just said it. The Mets are developing guys. The Phillies are not. The Phillies cannot call. They don't have a guy to call up.
They do have guys to call up. They're choosing not to.
Well, okay, yes, in the most literal sense, it could call up Painter, but Painter, I don't know if he's solving your problem necessarily.
Well, if that's the case, that's a problem. If you have a guy that's an untouchable player that you will not trade to improve your team, you have to then believe that that guy is a difference-making player. For you to say, I am not trading this guy no matter what, that the end result for that has to be that he is a difference maker. He can't be average. He can't be bottom of the rotation, back end of the rotation. He has to be at the top of the rotation. And quite frankly, it probably needs to be now. And I said this a month ago. We were at Ocean Casino probably 2 weeks ago, so not a month ago. I said at this point, when you got the news that Wheeler went out, what I would do is just say, you know what? At this stage, I got to go to Painter. He is the guy who has the best stuff in my system. And he's right now, the numbers just aren't there for him. The numbers aren't there for him. He's got a 5.11 ERA, and his whip is 1.4. Those numbers are not worthy of a call-up. Like if you just said, if we were putting stock into minor league numbers, you would say, I can't call this guy up. The numbers don't suggest it. The eye test tells a different story. They don't go by minor league numbers. They go by what the traits say. Well, and the traits for him say he's the guy who got the best stuff in our system. We need to see right now if he can help us.
Well, he may have the best stuff, but he's still got to control it. Your eyeballs can also show you that he can't control the ball if you watch his games. And you might not put stock in the minor league stats, but if Nolan McLean has a 2.45 ERA and a 1.13 whip, and then Painter, you said a 1.4 whip and whatever his ERA, which is much higher than 2.85, I don't think it takes a genius to figure out that McLean was a much smarter call-up for the Mets than the Phillies calling up Painter right now.
Well, and listen, again, we're going off of the fact that Painter is back from Tommy John surgery. So this year, he's going to not be, hopefully anyway, the guy that you're hoping to get at some point.
The Phillies are treating Andrew Painter like he's a guy in fantasy football who you're going to stash until week 8, and you hope he's going to save your fantasy football season, and then he never gets back from injury. That's what Painter's turning into. He was a tease for us back in March, and now he's done absolutely nothing for this team.
Yeah, the numbers do not suggest that Painter deserves a call-up. I just wonder if throwing Taijuan Walker out there every 5th day, I mean, what are you really hoping to get out of that?
Well, what I was hoping is that the the president of baseball operations, Dave Dombrowski, would have had the foresight to see that the team as currently constructed might have needed a little bit more than Harrison Bader.
I could agree with that. As I've said, they did not get a difference-making player for this offense. They got a difference-making player in their bullpen. By the way, a difference-making player who has blown 2 saves. Just throwing that out there.
Well,
while everybody loves Duran and everybody
game.
Yes, it was a tie game, so he ended up getting the loss. Although I think doesn't he have 2 blown saves? He blew the 1 save. I don't know, but anyway, everybody likes Duran. I'm not ripping Duran. You got a difference-making player in your bullpen.
Right.
You did not get a difference-making player in your lineup.
Which is a bigger issue in a game last night when you lose 6-0. Like, I understand we could talk about Walker and the pitching staff all we want, but this offense, their up and down erratic nature, their inconsistency is giving Philadelphia sports fans PTSD because we've seen it in 2022, 2023, 2024, now 2025. At some point, I don't want to hear Dave Dombrowski telling me how talented this team is. I don't want to hear Rob Thompson telling me how great and wonderful these guys are. I'm tired of hearing about how great the locker room is. I need somebody to go in that locker room, tell Rob Thompson, Dave Dombrowski, get the bleep out, have a tough conversation. I need Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber, whoever to step up in that room and say, boys.
Well, you heard what Schwarber said last night. He was asked a question, about the fact that they got swept here. And he says, yeah, we've been swept before.
Yeah. Nobody wants to hear that.
I know nobody wants to hear it, but is that the right mentality?
No, it's not.
You want him to overreact and throw tables.
No. I don't want him to overreact. I want him to say, being swept is unacceptable. We have to do better. What's wrong with saying that?
Nothing. There's nothing wrong with that. That wasn't his answer. Kyle Schwarber didn't give that answer. He said, we've been swept before. And you're right. I went back and looked. They got swept by the Pittsburgh Pirates and then won 8 out of 9. So, listen, it's a long season. You lose games. You play poorly in pockets of games. We all know that.
I
it's
wish
just
that term
the
never
fact
came into our
that
vernacular.
it is
pockets.
It is the fact that it's against the Mets at Citi Field, the 10th straight time. The division is now getting tight, and now everybody's starting to feel a little panic. It's getting a little tighter around the neck there, everybody. Yeah. But the Phillies have been swept before. It has happened, believe it or not, against bad teams like the Pittsburgh Pirates. They got swept at Pittsburgh, and then they won 8 out of 9 right after that. So, hey, at this time last week, everybody was feeling great when you pounded out the Mariners. Wow, look at this. It can change that quickly. Can it change back? Can it change back? Or did the Mets do something to knock the Phillies' confidence down a peg to where they might be in some trouble? They're 4 games up on the Mets. 4 games up on the Mets with a month of games left to go. We talk about it all the time. We were at Ocean Casino, I think it was on August the 18th, and we were talking about what is everything going to look like on September the 18th. Well, I remember that day because Aaron Nola was about to pitch, and we talked about how Aaron Nola has to pitch well that night, and he did not. And he's pitching tonight. Now, he pitched okay his last time out, but I go back to, do we really want to put our faith in Taijuan Walker and Aaron Nola in playoff situations after what we've seen this year? I certainly am not ready to say that.
You can't, because there's no scenario where you walk into game 2 or 3 of a playoff series, and if you see Walker and Nola come into the game under any circumstance, there's no part of you that's like, hey, we have a chance to win this game.
But this is why I look back and say I think they misplayed the Painter and the Crawford thing. You've now waited too long. You should have seen back in June and July whether or not those guys were ready. And then you could have said, you know what, they're not ready. You can't do it now. Now it's too late. I mean, you could try to do it now, but it might be too late. The Red Sox went and called up Roman Anthony. He's played 60-some games now, so he's got some games under his belt where he got off to a slow start, and now all of a sudden, now he's helping that team out. Now, Nolan McLean's got 3 really good starts, much like Mick Abel had 2 really good starts, and then he kind of fell off. So maybe McLean falls off. I didn't have any evidence last night. Now, the first 2 starts of Mick Abel, I didn't see much evidence that he was going to fall off. The one evidence that I had about Mick Abel that worried me was he going to revert back to his resume, which is he doesn't throw strikes, and that was his problem. But I would have taken a look to see if those guys could help me when I had the chance. Instead of starting Taijuan Walker, because you know he's not starting for you in the playoffs, I would have filled that void with Andrew Painter when I had the chance to, and see if he could have helped this team out, because this team needs a little bit of infusion of life, a little bit of infusion of help. Text board's rocking and rolling. We'll answer them. We'll read them. We'll react to them. Coming up, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, live video, streaming on the X platform, YouTube, at Mike Gill Show. Nola and Cal Quantrill tonight. There's a guy who's 4-11 with a 5.51 ERA.
He'll probably go 7 innings.
Take the under.
10.
Take the under. Aaron Nola throw a gem ski, right? All right, we'll react to your text messages. Get them in. Fire them up. 609-403-0973. I read and react to your text messages at 609-403-0973. Next. 2:31 Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. Looks like the Eagles have brought back Britton Covey. He's at least on the practice field. There's no announcement, though, whether or not they have signed him. Is he just hanging out?
He's in uniform. He has the Guardian hat on his cap.
Wow.
He's running drills. I see video of it, but I don't see an official announcement from the Eagles.
Yeah, nothing official yet, but there are pictures of him out there. John Clark tweeted it out. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Live videos streaming on the X platform and on YouTube. At Mike Gill Show, subscribe, be a part of the show. A lot of people texting in today, Josh. Text board buzzing so far. Steve says, just call up Crawford to be the backup center fielder. Well, let's stop right there. That's not happening.
The Phillies have said that if they call him up, they want him to play every day.
I mean, come on. They've said over and over and over again, when he comes up, it's to play every day. They don't want him sitting. And one of the problems is you're not going to call him up to sit here when the AAA season, it goes into like the third week of September now.
Right.
So they're not going to have him come up here and sit the bench when he has a chance to continue to get consistent at bat. So Steve goes on to say that experience will be priceless. Sitting on the bench and watching, not as good experience as getting swings every single day. I understand sitting on the bench and watching if there are no other games to play would be valuable experience. So Justin Crawford, I cannot see them just saying, hey, come on up and sit the bench and watch.
Yeah,
if he's up here, it's to play. They have said that over and over and over again, that when he's ready to play and they think he's ready, just when we're ready to bring him up, he's going to play a lot. And for whatever reason, I don't have an answer as to why they have not called up Crawford other than where are they putting him? That would be my question. Where are they putting him? And I know everyone's like, bench this guy, sit that guy, don't play that guy. He's not playing over Castellanos. He doesn't play right field anyway, so that's out. You just traded for Harrison Bader. I can't imagine you're going to trade for the guy and then not play him. So you're going to play over Marsh. Do you play him over Marsh? That would be the spot. You play him over Marsh in left field and have an outfield of Crawford in left, Bader in center, and Castellanos primarily in right, and then you can use either Kepler and Brendan Marsh as the other outfielder. If you want to give Castellanos some time off, you can play Marsh.
Is Brad Marsh available? Maybe he could do something for this team.
Be a defensive player, probably better than Castellanos defensively. Just for the people who haven't paid attention for Crawford, he's hitting .331 with a .407 on base percentage. He's actually shown a little bit of power in the last 2 weeks. Got 6 home runs now. He's not a big guy. He's not going to hit a lot of home runs, but has a ton of speed, 42 stolen bases. I just don't see where they're going to – like, you might say, I don't care, he's better than all those guys, but the reality is they're not going to play him over Marsh, Castellanos, or Bader, right? I don't see that. I just don't.
I don't either, but it's like, just think about what we're talking about here. We're talking about a team that has a top prospect blocked by the most indescript band of misfit toys humanly possible.
Well, one of the problems that we've heard about Crawford is he's not a great center fielder, that they don't know that he's ready to play center field, so they've moved him over to left field to see if he can work on being a major league left fielder.
Right, they've been playing Rojas in center field.
So the last thing is you moved him from center to now left. They're not going to put him in right field. I mean, that's not happening. So I don't know if it's the defensive problems. I can't imagine they're saying, look, we got a guy hitting .330, and because he's an average center fielder, maybe even a good center fielder, I don't know if they're just like, we aren't ready to bring him up because of his defense. I don't know that that's the problem. I just think it's, who are we replacing? And again, everybody out there is yelling, sit Marsh, sit Bader. Okay, but they're not doing that. They're not going to trade for Bader and then say, you know what, yeah, we're going to bench you.
And that's why the whole trade deadline thing is now a month later coming back to exhaust all of us, or exasperate all of us, because we're like, you know, you didn't want to trade these guys. You said we were fine, and now we've lost 10 straight in New York to the Mets, and we lost 6-0 last night to a team that frankly, we could have beaten at least one game in this series, and we couldn't beat them all.
609-403-0973, 609-403-0973. FedEx Phil chimes in and says, I got the Mets winning the division at plus 3,000 before the game started. I checked this morning. It's now plus 400. Oh, baby. On a serious side note, I want to point out, do prospects start to regress in the minors? It's human nature. I can certainly say that you can get bored down there.
I'm just curious, what does he mean by regress? Like they're no longer good, they missed their window, like
yeah, maybe they're not working as hard, they're not as focused.
Well, then that's a personal problem.
No doubt. I mean, but not everybody's mentally tough enough to be great.
Yeah,
that's all encompassing.
Maybe that happening in the minor leagues is a litmus
that hasn't
test.
happened to Crawford though. He's
still a stud.
He's still ripping it up down there. Like, hey, I should be up. Not up? Okay, I'll just keep on hitting.
I think Crawford, the problem with Crawford is not Crawford. The problem with Crawford is the Phillies' management of the Major League roster.
I'll ask again, though, and I'm not getting very many answers on this. What do you do with him? Do you just say you're playing center field every day, Bader and Marsh, you're in left, Castellanos and Kepler? To me, that would be the best case scenario, but I would say this. As good as Crawford has been, is he changing the complexion of the big league batting lineup?
No, he's not, because he doesn't fix the problem that you have behind the big three. The problem with this lineup is once you get past Turner, Schwarber, Harper, you don't have a good answer.
Hey, Mike, I'm disappointed, but not discouraged. We will rebound this weekend. Mets stink. That's from Jeff in Ocean City. Well, you better hope they rebound this weekend, Jeff, because they play the Braves for 4. This is a bad Braves team that's, 1-2 in a row, starting to play a little bit better baseball. And then you have the Brewers after that. So maybe this weekend they rebound, but then they got the Brewers. They play the Dodgers coming up. I mean, this is a stretch of game that they need to take care of business. You got a team that's down in the standings. When you have a team down in the standings, you got to take advantage of it. You got to get 3 out of 4 here.
Yes.
Mike, I believe you're being too hard on Walker. Walker has done what is expected from him, and you say he was terrible. I'm just saying, we know what Walker is.
Right.
Your expectations of Walker aren't, hey, get us out of this mess. It's, we hope that you don't implode.
That's not a strategy. That's hope.
Hope is not a strategy. I've heard that before. But I think Walker, I've actually given Walker a lot of props this year. He's outperformed everyone's expectations.
Correct.
I think he's had a really good bounce-back season. But we also know what the team thinks of him. They don't believe in him as a bullpen guy. They gave him no shot to help out there. They put him in the starting rotation in a spot last night where, listen, I get it. It's his turn to pitch. He's pitching. But I would have much rather seen a situation where, like the Mets last night. If you're the Mets and you're 7 games back and you're trying to win this series and you're trying to gain games in the standings and you got a 24-year-old kid on the mound who's making his 3rd big league start, and he goes out there and throws like Cy Young. He looked like Greg Maddux last night.
And again, that's the other problem with the Phillies. You built a boomer-bust lineup. So what happens is that you're basically gambling on the idea that when you need them the most, they'll show up. Well, guess what? They didn't show up.
609-403-0973, 609-403-0973. Text board is open. Keep them coming here. Listen, I think the Phillies mismanaged this situation with their younger players. I really do. I'm watching games all over the place, and all the time. Look, it happened last year, too, in Milwaukee with Frelick.
Yes.
They just said, you know what? This is the best guy we have. He's going to help us out. Let's bring him up. And what did he do last year? He came up in the middle of that pennant chase.
He propelled them.
Or maybe that was 2 years ago. It was 2023 when they called him up. He was a 22-year-old kid at that time.
Yeah.
They brought him up for like the last 60 games of the season, and he gave him a big lift.
It's almost like the Phillies are afraid to call up their young guys.
This has been going on for years, where they are just very conservative with their younger players.
You call it conservative, I call it fearful. It's like they're afraid that if they bring the guy up, he's not going to be as good as they've been marketing him out to be or saying he was going to be, and then they're going to face backlash. Well, you know what, Phillies? Maybe you need to do a better job developing your guys. How about that?
I listen, and somebody texted in about They're fearful that Andrew Painter is going to be the next Spencer Howard, the guy that you keep hearing about, and then when the time comes, he's just a dud. Spencer Howard's out of the league.
Yeah.
That would be a disaster, by the way.
That would be a huge – I don't think Painter's going to be a bust. But I do think that the organization – I think they overplayed their cards. I think that they should have never said back in March or April or whatever the first time they said it that there was a chance that he could come up this year. I think they should have said they should have been much more conservative in their messaging about him. And they created a level of expectation. And now people are like, well, you promised me something. It's like when you go to a movie or a show, right? And then somebody promises you, hey, for the final act, we're going to have this band. And then the band never shows up, and people are disappointed. They were hoping all week. The anticipation was building, and then nothing.
609-403-0973. It's happened to me before.
Go to a concert, and the band you went
We
to
were
see
driving up the Parkway one time. I was young, and we were supposed to go see Weezer, and the drummer got sick. And then we drove all the way up there. I think it was like in PNC Arts Place up in Monmouth.
What's the concert going to this weekend? It's live, Collective Soul, and who else?
Our Lady Peace.
So imagine if Our Lady Peace, the singer got sick the day of the concert. You'd be disappointed.
Absolutely.
That's how I think Philly fans are right now with Andrew Painter.
Well,
they were promised Our Lady Peace was going to perform, and then nothing happened.
609-403-0973. We've been waiting for Crawford. We thought, all right, after the trade deadline, right? If they can't trade him, he'll be up the next day. That didn't happen. Then there was a lot of reports that it was going to be on the 15th after he got the service time thing. There was a lot of reports about that. Okay, I'll wait and see if that happens. All right, let's see if he comes up that day. That didn't happen. I got the feeling you got one more chance to see if they do something there, and I don't think that's going to happen when the September call-ups happen.
Well, now, because the rumor out there is that there's speculation that it could be Garrett Stubbs being called up.
I wouldn't be surprised if Stubbs is up at all, but you get two. You get two. Who's the other guy?
2 hitters?
Who's the other guy?
That's the problem. Who is the other guy? Who is the third man of the NWO, Mike Gill?
I would think, I think we talked about it with McGarry on Monday's show, and he said he thinks it's going to be, like a Lazar, one of those guys, like one of the pitchers.
Well, a lot of Philly fans are going to be exasperated, and they're going to have Sixers vibes again, because as soon as the Eagles start playing and the Phillies call up Garrett Stubbs and Max Lazar, they're going to be like, what else is on television?
Well, 1 week from tonight, the Eagles will be on television.
Exactly.
And they'll be on the radio right here on 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Live video streaming on the X platform, YouTube. Check out the show. Be a part of it on the text board, 609-403-0973, 609-403-0973. Get on board. Coming up, Bob Cooney will join us at 5 o'clock tonight, talk some Phils. He was out there covering the series for NBC Philadelphia in Citi Field, New York. We'll get his takeaways and how that clubhouse felt after that game, after this series. 3 in a row, they lose in New York against the Metropolitans. Britton Covey returns to Philly. Is that the new punt returner? They brought Marcus Epps back, too. He's back here. See the new safety? Feels like 2022 all over again. More Sports Bash coming up. 97.3 ESPN. 10 to the top of the hour. We got number 1 versus number 2, Texas, Ohio State on our sister station, Rock 104.1, Saturday at noon. 1 versus 2, Texas, Ohio State. Tune in at noon on our sister station, Rock 104.1. We're going to be doing a lot of football on our sister station, so you're going to want to download the Rock 104.1 free mobile app to listen to all the football this fall. The fall football season starts back tonight. You got college football tonight. I think Boise's in action, right? Number 25?
Boise and Nebraska.
They don't play each other.
No, Boise, the game comes on, I think it's 5:30?
Yeah, it's an early game. Boise plays tonight against South Florida.
Nebraska versus Cincinnati tonight on 97.3.
A lot of games tonight, by the way. A lot of games tonight. You got East Carolina, NC State. I was at that game, the bowl game. They played in Annapolis at Navy for the bowl game, and now they're playing again tonight. 7 o'clock, that's ECU, North Carolina State. Who else is playing tonight? There's a couple other. Missouri's playing tonight. They're a team, good year last year.
The problem with Missouri is going to be how do they overcome no Brady Cook anymore at quarterback? He was a huge catalyst for their offense last year.
609-403-0973. I like to bring this one up from Chris in Delaware.
Hello, Chris.
Says Mets are the Phillies' daddy. The Phillies just saw a glimpse of the Mets' future. They have 2 more high pitching prospects, and the Phillies are getting older. It was last night. And this last series and this season, a changing of the guard in the NL East. The Phillies are getting older, and the Mets are digging into the farm system to get younger as the Phillies are, hey, I need some oxygen over here. The season's pretty long.
I think it's a very fair point because we have complained about this roster a lot, but one of those complaints, as you and Nick Earnshaw have talked about in the past on the Nuggets segment, is the age of these guys. You got guys like Turner and Harper under contract up until they're like 40 years old.
I don't want to make this sound like I don't want to sign Schwarber back, but at what point do you have to consider I got to break the core up? I have to change something. How do I change it? If I have Harper here, I have Turner here, what do you do with Real Muto? And I'm not saying I don't want to bring Schwarber back. I'm just wondering out loud, am I going to go back to the same lineup again next year? Turner, Schwarber, Harper, Real Muto, Castellanos? Because Castellanos is signed for another year. What do you do?
I think you got to bring Schwarber back because he's the only guy that he's really the only reliable guy at this point, which is crazy to say. But I think that if you're going to shake something up, you're going to have to look at guys like maybe paying somebody to take Castellanos off your hands and then maybe not bringing back Real Muto.
Got to. You got to do something with Castellanos. You can't bring him back again because you got to open up a spot for Crawford. You won't have Kepler here next year. You got to open up a spot for Crawford. It absolutely must happen. It is a must. If I see Castellanos on this team again, I will be an irrational dude next season.
And now I almost want Castellanos to be on the team.
Jeff in Ocean City says, Mike, if you want to win back that beer back from last Labor Day weekend, I will allow you to take any NCAA game this weekend. Jeff, I'm taking West Virginia. Minus 34 against Robert Morris, 2 o'clock Saturday. That's my game. Rich Rod's back, baby. They're going to go run it up on Robert Morris.
They're going to make a statement on Saturday.
Oh, yeah. No one's giving them any street cred. And when Rich Rod is back in Motown, you'll be owing me a beer. Although I got your beers that you delivered to me right here, Jeff in Ocean City. They're sitting at the foot of my chair. More Sports Bash coming up. 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Check us out, live video streaming on the X platform, YouTube, at Mike Gill Show. 3 o'clock, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. I'm Mike Gill. Busy show today so far. A lot of text message on the disappointing Phils night last night against the Mets. They've lost 10 straight. Here's some news if you want to feel better, though. According to Adam Schefter, ESPN, several teams have spoken to the Cowboys about a potential Micah Parsons trade, and for the first time, the Cowboys are willing to listen. Schefter adds the Cowboys would like to resolve the situation one way or another in the coming days with the season opener Thursday against Philadelphia. The Cowboys hold their first full practice in preparation for the Eagles tomorrow. So Adam Schefter now reporting the Cowboys are willing to listen to a trade for Micah Parsons. So I don't know how this thing ends. I would imagine not great. My guess was they would have a deal done maybe Monday or Tuesday. I don't know if that means he would play in the game on Thursday night, but that has certainly taken a turn with that reporting there from Adam Schefter, and the Cowboys could be down Micah Parsons, and that would be interesting to see. I mean, we're talking about the Phils and how bad they have been and how frustrating this has been, and these are all fair critiques and criticisms and everything you want to say about the Phillies. Do they need more life? Yeah, I said they were lifeless last night. People get mad a lot. I don't, say, the manager's this, the manager's that. I'm not like a blame the manager kind of guy, but, it's frustrating when people see them play like that. And then obviously after the game, what do you want Thompson to say, really? What is he supposed to say? Do you want him to say, we need more life? I mean, his job is to keep these guys even-keeled. That is what the role of the manager in today's game is. So I'm not going to sit here and say I want more energy and life out of Rob Thompson. His role on this team is to keep them level-headed. The problem is we as fans don't want these guys to be level-headed. We rather see them blow a gasket.
And the problem is that when they blow a gasket, Mike, then we blame them for not being able to control their emotions. Like Alec Boehm.
Alec Boehm. I was going to say, like Alec Boehm. It's one of those things where you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't.
Yep.
We were looking at what Kyle Schwarber said. Right? Kyle Schwarber, after the game, kind of got asked about the whole situation, the fact that the team is not playing all that well. They got swept, and was he concerned about it? And, Schwarber basically, he was said, hey, are you concerned that you let the Mets back into this playoff race? Here's what Kyle Schwarber said last night following the game.
I know you got to tip your hat. They played well in this series, but do you almost feel like maybe you guys let them back in this race here?
I don't think that we're focused on that. I think we're focused on ourselves. This is about us in the clubhouse. Us as a team, we got to get back. We got another important series ahead of us. So, if we got to go out and take care of business. And moving forward, we still have another series against these guys, but, we're not looking to that. We're looking to the series ahead. Things happen.
So doesn't sound like a guy who feels like, man, they're creeping up on us. Doesn't feel like a guy who says, we're not playing really well. He says, yeah, this is about us. We just got to keep looking ahead here.
But it also sounds like a guy who maybe is a little too indifferent. Like, you would like a guy to come out and again, I'm not saying he has to say it literally this way, but there's a vibe where it's like, hey, man, we got to do better. Like, I understand the fans. We were going back home. The fans are going to be frustrated. Losing the Mets 10 straight, it's frustrating. We get that. We understand we got to fix some things. We got, just at least give us the coach speak. You got to – he almost sounds like doesn't matter, whatever.
Right. This is where you want to say, hey, listen, we're not going to get crazy here. I'm not going to get really irrational. But, yeah, we need to play better. Now we're getting into September. Now these games matter. Now we got to start buckling down, and that game's unacceptable. And we got to put it in the back burner and get ready for Atlanta.
Like, I always go back to, and this is obviously a little bit, there's no, it's not an apples comparison, but how back in the day when Greg Popovich used to do post-game pressers, Mike, and they would ask him about something, and he'd like pull up the box score, and he would look at the box score and be like, yeah, well, it's not a good thing when you shoot 4 for 20 from 3. Like he would kind of like state the obvious, and you're like, yeah, we got to do better than that. Like, and there's a party that's like, yeah, it's Popovich being Popovich, but there's also the part of it as a fan, right? The fan in us says, at least you admitted you got to do better. Like, the Andy Reid, it's on me.
I will say, though, as much as we want to hear certain things, it's not changing things. We act like if they say what we want them to say, that everything's going to change.
Well, it makes us feel better.
Right, exactly. But that's my point is, if they say stuff that appeases us, it doesn't mean just because we want them to say something and then they say it, that everything's going to change. Like if Kyle Schwarber says, well, we are embarrassed by the way we played, that doesn't mean they're going to go out and sweep the Braves.
True.
You know what I'm saying? So let's not, it's the press conference. People, did he have a good press conference? Did he say all the right things? Nick Sirianni had a horrible press conference.
But we also
He's won a Super Bowl.
But we also are the same people that appreciate, like when Luzardo has a bad start, when he comes out and says, hey, man, I got to fix this.
Right, but
I got to do that.
We're basically picking whose personalities we like and whose we don't. I mean, so we like when Luzardo comes out and says what he says, but that doesn't mean things are changing.
Sure.
Just because he says things that we like to hear doesn't mean that all of a sudden, oh my God, he said what I wanted him to say. They must be ready to go on a 10-game win streak here. That's just not how this works. So you're basically judging people's personalities and then projecting that might change the dynamics of the wins and losses. That's just not how this works.
It's not how it works, but that's how people feel.
I agree with that.
I can't change how the fans feel about it.
I agree with you 100%. That's how they feel. That's how they feel. Here's something Rob Thompson was asked, by the way. I want to hear people's opinions on this. He was asked by Anthony Sanfilippo. He is Bob Wankel's podcast partner at The Fightin' Words. And he asked Rob Thompson about the fact that the Mets have kind of owned them at Citi Field. And listen to the answer Thompson gave. See if anybody feels any better after this one.
How curious are you to see how your guys respond after getting punched in the face 2 days in a row?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, but you got to grind through it. I was looking at some of the Yankee stuff when I was there. So from 05 to 09, when we were in LA against the Angels, we were 3-13. In 08 and 09, we were 0-6. Actually, we had lost 8 in a row. We beat them in the LCS.
So the example he gave was from 05 to 09. They played the Angels and went 3-13 out there in Anaheim. But when they played them in the playoffs, they swept them.
But the problem with that answer is that now Rob Thompson is doing the Dave Dombrowski thing. He's doing let me tell you what happened 15, 20 years ago. And the fans out there are going to say, well, how does that relate to my team now?
Well,
how does that change the fact
the question he was asked, he answered. Are you worried about the fact that you have not played well in this ballpark? So he is giving an example of why he's not all that worried about it.
To which the fans would say that doesn't fix the problem, which is you keep losing in the postseason for the same exact reason. Your offense goes cold.
There's nothing he could do about that, though. We're acting like Rob Thompson can do something to fix that. That part of it is out of his control.
Right. So where do we draw the line then between the manager speaking and us stop caring if the manager speaks? Because there's nothing he can say to fix the problem.
You want the guy not to talk after the games? I have no problem with that. I mean, we act like you're damned if you do. You're like,
right.
People want to pick out when they say stuff. Oh, he said this, so that means it's got to be accurate. But when you don't agree with them, like I don't listen to what he says. So you can't pick and choose. Like he was asked a question, "Are you worried about this?" I give the guy credit. They went out and did the research. It's like he knew he was going to get asked the question, so he said, "Hey, you know what? We're not playing very well here. Let me go back and see if this has ever happened to me in my past." So he's at least cognizant of the fact that his team has not played well there to the point where he went to research it and found that, hey, we were 3-13 against the Angels, and guess what? We swept them in the playoffs.
But guess what? Fans say, like this text is 609-403-0973. He says, this team isn't the 08-09 Yankees. Look at those players and look at this one. It's a fair point.
That is a fair point. Yeah, there's no question about that. They're not the 08-09 Yankees. Although you can make a argument, the 08 Yankees had not won a World Series yet, and then they won the one in 09.
But why did they win one in 09? Because they made changes to the roster to make that team viable to win a championship.
But they had a lot of veteran players on that team, much like the Phillies do now.
But they did make serious adjustments, and those adjustments paid off in that postseason run. And I think for the Phillies fan, they don't want to hear about Rob Thompson's experience with the Yankees. 15 years ago, 20 years ago, because they're saying, Rob, that team is not comparable to this team.
By the way, that loss last night was impactful for two reasons. One, you lost 10 in a row now to the Mets.
In New York.
It's a 4-game lead in the East after it started at 7. Yes, in New York at Citi. The Phillies have beaten the Mets 2 out of 3 at Citizens Bank Park the last time they played,
Correct.
which was right before the All-Star break. Number 2, big reason why that game was important last night. I don't know if anybody caught this. The Dodgers won again last night for the 4th straight time. While you've lost 3 in a row, guess what? If the playoffs started today, the Phillies would be playing the Mets in the wild card round.
That's huge.
The games would be at Citizens Bank Park right now because the Phillies are the division leader. All 3 of them would be at Citizens Bank Park if it went 3. But I don't know if people paid attention to that last night. With the Mets win and the Dodger win last night, the Dodgers jumped over the Phillies into the 2nd seed, and now you're playing from behind the Dodgers. You got about a month of games left, and it's you and the Dodgers, mano a mano. Who's going to win that horse race?
And the problem with the Phillies is the Dodgers are now getting healthy.
Exactly. Dodgers are getting healthy, and
At
they're
the
starting
right
to play
time. They're playing well. They're getting healthy at the right time. That is danger, Will Robinson. Danger for the Phillies if they don't get their head out of the sand.
Hey, listen. They had a chance to open up the ground on the Dodgers. They had a 2.5-game lead, and that lead has now been erased, and the Dodgers have passed them. And now the Dodgers are the 2 seed. You're the 3 seed, which means if the Phillies had to start the playoffs today, they would be playing the Mets. And really, if the Phillies don't pass the Dodgers, you're going to play the Mets.
Yeah.
That's what it's shaping up to right now. If you don't think they can catch the Dodgers, now they're only a half a game behind the Dodgers, and they do play coming up 3 games out in L.A. That'll be a big series. Phillies also play the Brewers. They're 6.5 behind the Brewers. You can make a good argument that you're not catching them.
Well,
so
unless
you're either catching the Dodgers or you're playing in the wild card game.
Unless you sweep the Brewers coming up, which would be hilarious. It's like, hey, we got swept by the Mets, but we swept the Brewers.
Half a dozen, one or the other, right?
Right.
You beat the wrong team. Well, listen, at this stage of the game, you got 4 against the Braves right now. You got to take 3 out of 4 in this series. Right?
100%. This is the only way you are going to reestablish yourself is take down a Braves team that's had a bad year. Just got to take them down. You got to go out there, take the bull by the horns, and say, I don't care what happened in the Mets series. We're going to move forward as if we think we are still one of the best teams in baseball, and we're going to take it out on the Atlanta Braves.
Now, here's what Schwarber said last night. He was asked a question about the fact that they've had problems here. He says, there's disappointment. Who likes to lose? No one likes to lose. There's nothing that can really faze us. We've been swept before this year, and we bounced back. We have to do the same thing. I'm not worried about it. I know everyone's going to have the right mindset going into the next series, and we go from there. They beat us. Tip your cap. They beat us.
I mean, congratulations. Kyle Schwarber is the ultimate pros pro. But, I mean, that you can have the right mindset, but it doesn't change the fact that Harrison Bader overthrows a ball from the outfield, right? It doesn't change the fact that Nick Castellanos swings at a ball that's 10 feet off the plate. It doesn't change the fact that Alec Boehm is going to swing at a ball he shouldn't hit into a double play. Like, having the right mindset doesn't change the reality of what can happen in these games.
Thompson said, we know we need to play better. It's one of those series. We just have to flush it and move on. It's one series, and I know it's against the Mets, and we admittedly need to play better. We will. We have a good club, and that's not going to change.
I at least respect that answer because he says, this is what happened. We understand. We're going to move on. Boom.
See, I think and that's the thing. The messaging has to be, this game's behind us. We lose all the time. Swept. Play bad. That happens over 162. I feel differently than a lot of people in this. I don't want to see the players start to get irrational because that then says the pressure's starting to get to them.
Yeah.
The second they come out and start to get irrational, you start to feel like, oh, they know that.
But behind the scenes, I would hope there is some difficult conversations going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure that these guys are not happy. With
And listen, and the reason why I say that also is because, Charlotte Varnes from The Athletic has reported about, the camaraderie in the locker room, how these guys love each other, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, sometimes love means tough love as well. If you have a family member, you have a good friend who is not doing something well or not doing something right, or even professionally, Mike, if I don't do my job well, and I keep doing it poorly, you might need to have a tough conversation with me. Like, Josh, you've been here for a while. You usually do a good job with this, but the last couple times you've been doing it, you've been screwing up. I need you to step up. I need you to put your game face on. I need you to flush whatever's going on that put you in that situation. Sometimes it doesn't need to be public, but it just needs to happen. And I just wonder, is it going to happen?
Well, we'll see, because tonight Aaron Nola's on the mound, and you got Nola against Cal Quantrill, who's been dreadful this year. This is the kind of game where you have to have the bounce back. Now, Braves have been playing better. They've won 6 out of 10. They've won 2 straight here. Starting to play a little bit better as they've gotten healthier. They won last night 12-1. They won the night before 11-2. So they've scored double-digit runs the last 2 games here. They're starting to turn the things around because they're starting to get healthy. As I said, Olsen, he's starting to come around. Acuna, all of a sudden, back, bang, healthy, starting to get those 2 going here. The one big thing is they got Sale pitching on Saturday now. He's back. This is an interesting spot to get the Atlanta Braves, and I think that it's a tricky series right now, the way you're playing. And here's my question. The game's at Citizens Bank Park. You get swept by the Mets. Everyone's mad as a hornet's nest right now. What kind of reaction they going to get at the ballpark tonight?
Yeah, they're going to get the boos or the cheers. Are you going to get the
When
Eagles?
Dan Baker cracks the mic. Ladies and gentlemen, for this National League game, let's bring on the 2025 Philadelphia Phillies. And they go trotting out there. They're going to get a Bronx cheer. They're going to get a standing O. They're going to get the clap. They're going to get the party that you get at Citizens Bank Park. What's it going to be like?
Do you get the golf clap? People are just like, whatever.
I am very interested in the team's been away. They played poorly. People are not happy about it.
6:45 tonight, you'll find out.
Thankfully, it's an early game. Those 7-10 starts have been getting me, man.
What's going to get you more? The time of the game or the fact it's Apple TV Plus tomorrow night?
Well, I have Apple TV, so that's not the biggest deal. I just don't prefer games on Apple TV because, I like to do the switch around. Commercial, go someplace else.
College football this weekend.
Exactly. That's my point. So I'd rather have it to where I don't have to do all that. I'd rather have it to where the game is on normal television. But I don't mind the Apple TV because I have it. The one that gets me the most is the Roku. Roku's the hardest one for me to find for some reason. I can't seem to find it on my television. I have it on my phone.
Roku was easy for me to get. That one game. The one time.
The one game, yeah. Now I think Roku's getting out of the baseball
Right, they're
game.
getting out of it, so there goes that.
So they're giving that back to Peacock, I think.
I was giving them credit, and I was like, they're out. Never mind.
By the way, if you're just tuning in, news according to Adam Schefter and others that the Cowboys are listening to offers now for Micah Parsons. The trade, according to Field Yates, a package that satisfies Dallas. If it's a contending team, does that mean 2 first-round picks? The Cowboys are going to ask for a ton. A contract that satisfies Parson, possibly straightforward. He says the highest-paid non-quarterback ever, $42 million per year at least. So a team to get him is going to have at least $24 million available in cap space. That is his current cap number, and an extension would be worked out after the trade is executed. But at this stage, does it almost sound like a fait accompli that Micah Parsons will be traded?
It's absolutely insane because I heard Mike Tannenbaum talking about this yesterday, about how he said, does a team really want to commit that double whammy? Do they really want to commit the assets necessary to get him and spend the money to keep him? And Mike Tannenbaum said, listen, he says, every team would love to have Micah Parsons. He says, but he says not many teams want to do both. Not every team wants to give up the assets in a trade and give him the money. So now you're shrinking the pool, right? Okay, who has the picks and the players to trade? And then
I know one team.
But then does that team also have the salary cap space and the cash available to make the deal?
I know one team that can get creative enough to figure it out.
But you know that trade is never going to happen.
I agree, but I know one team that could at least put together the framework of something. Now, there's no way that the Eagles and Cowboys would deal together. No way.
Especially a deal like this.
No way.
Especially with the comments that Jerry Jones has made in recent years, right? Criticizing how the Eagles build their team and their roster.
I would say this. The fact that the Parsons Cowboys report comes out, okay, they're now willing to listen. This usually means something's going to happen on either side. Either the contract gets done and you're like, how'd that report just come out and they get the contract done that quickly? Or Parsons is out of here. I can't imagine this just keeps lingering. I know the Cowboys like to be in the news, and they'd rather be in the news for off-the-field stuff than winning football games. But this feels like they either get the deal done when I said right after Labor Day, on Labor Day, or right after Labor Day, and I don't know, can he play after just working out for 2 days? Or he's traded.
The question is,
You think he's on the Cowboys, doesn't play Thursday night, and is on the Cowboys the following week?
no. I think that if they don't trade him, this is going to be like Emmitt Smith years ago, where he's going to miss a couple games and then they'll finally get a deal done if he's not traded.
609-403-0973.
Although I could see a scenario, really quick, Mike. You know Jerry Jones loves stealing headlines, right? 3 o'clock Thursday afternoon. Does he trade Micah Parsons?
He wants to upstage his own game.
Yes.
I don't know about that.
I'm just saying, Jerry's Jerry.
Jera. Have you watched the Cowboys documentary yet?
I have not. Although it's interesting because you mentioned how some people love the documentary. I've seen people who have covered the Cowboys, who've written books like Jeff Pearlman and Gary Myers complaining about the documentary.
Jeff Pearlman is complaining because he feels like they took it from they stole it from his book and didn't give him any credit. So take with a grain of salt what he's saying.
Well, that's the second time he would say that because he said the same thing about the Showtime
So
documentary.
I was listening to a podcast. I'll actually see if I can find the audio from the podcast and hear what they said about this about the documentary. More Sports Bash on the way. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Live video streaming on the X platform, YouTube, at Mike Gill Show. Subscribe, like, share, be a part of the show. Text right now, 609-403-0973. Coming up, we'll take a look at the Eagles roster as it is coming into shape. They did sign Marcus Epps to the practice squad, and it looks like Britton Covey is back with the Birds. That's all coming up on the Sports Bash. 3:30 Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Gill. This hour of the Sports Bash, it's brought to you by Broadleys Plumbing, Heating, Air Conditioning, your trusted source for heating, plumbing service, and installation for generations. Call 609-390-3907, broadleys.net. Any Phillies lineup out there yet? It's 3:30. It's a home game, usually out by right about now. We'll check in on that, see if the Phils have the lineup out tonight against Cal Quantrill, who is a righty. So my guess would be, all right, my working theory, as you would claim, Josh, would be Turner, Schwarber, Harper, Real Muto, Bohm. That's where it gets a little tough because you got a righty. So probably Bohm 5, Marsh 6, Kepler 7, Bader 8, and Stott 9. I think Castellanos sits tonight. Maybe I'm just throwing into the ether to see if it actually would happen. Can I get that to happen? Castellanos sitting again. Kepler plays right. Marsh plays left. I mean, you got to do something to make sure that you maximize your opportunity here. And I'll tell you what you don't have is a great opportunity when Nick Castellanos is in the lineup right now. It's just been dreadful. Oh, he actually been okay over the last week, but against a right-handed pitcher, you've got to get those guys out there who give you the best shot to win the game. So that would be my lineup tonight. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. I haven't seen a Braves lineup either, so both teams kind of scuffling along, slowing down here as the Phillies take on the Mets tonight. Also, we're going to get into the Eagles. Scott Grayson's grades are back for another year at 97.3ESPN.com. After every Eagles game, we grade the Eagles and their performances. Scott Grayson from Fox 29, and going to kind of grade everything over. Now, the Eagles did add Marcus Epps to the practice squad. Not a big deal there. And also Britton Covey was at practice today. Looks like he is back for the Eagles. But now almost a finished product. So we'll take a look at the Eagles right now, Scott Grayson, and kind of get your thoughts over training camp, roster cutdown day, practice squad, your thoughts on the roster construction of this team.
It's interesting. It's a younger roster than we've, really been used to around here, in the sense that they've just got so many guys they've drafted recently that they're really counting on, and they let so many older veterans go from last season as well, which is forcing these younger guys to come up. And it's interesting. This is when Howie tends to cook one of his times during the season, because he loves looking at all these guys dropped from other teams. And we saw, of course, they add Willie Lampkin, from the Rams, who was an injury designation when he was released. So that tells you they must have really loved this guy going into the draft. And I think there's interesting little nuggets and things to look at within this roster. For the most part, we know who the key players are. We know and expected them to all be, key players coming into the season. Several things that I'm going to be looking for. Jahad Campbell, I think we're all excited to see what he does when they come out of the gate here against the Cowboys in a week from tomorrow. That's good. I'm interested to see what they do with Cooper DeJean, because it seems like all offseason they've toyed with him here at nickel, moving him to outside, having him a little bit at safety. So I think there's just different things that Vic Fangio has been playing with, and I'm really kind of excited to see what kind of things he's going to throw at Dak Prescott in week 1 here with this team. But I think there are some question marks on this roster. Everybody I know is concerned about edge. I'm one of them. I think they've got the guys who can do some things there, but they're not proven to be able to do it at a high level of snaps on a regular basis. Yeah, I'm curious to see whether or not Howie's done with that, even with any trades.
I was going to ask you, if you're grading that pass rush right now, you had Josh Sweat last year. He's not here. Jalix Hunt takes that spot. Nolan Smith emerged late in the season. How confident are you in the Hunt-Smith duo that they can hold up this, the pass rush to the standards that needs to be done in a Vic Fangio defense?
Yeah, that's just it with me. I'm just not sure if they can do it consistently with as many snaps as it's going to take. But hey, that's one side of the equation, right? The other argument is, look at what they did in the postseason. They're trending in the right direction. It looks like they're finally breaking through in certain ways. And the fact that the team is betting on them to do that tells you what they think of where they are at this point. We won't know until we see it, in these first few weeks of the season. And you can't just judge it, I think, on week one. When you look at this team, the way the Eagles have been, look at last season, look at the year before that. The first couple of weeks in the regular season really are the preseason for these guys because they don't play. They just don't play. And that's the state of the NFL these days with some teams, the Eagles, one of them, that you can't really say, oh, look what they do in week one, whether it's good or bad. I think you have to temper everything and just say you've got to see how this team progresses because 4 weeks in, they were 2-2 last year, went into the bye, and the rest is history after that. I think you've got to give this team a good 2 to 3, 4 weeks before you really decide what they are in any facet, any way that you look at any position group here.
Scott Grayson, his grades are up after every Eagles game over at 97.3 ESPN.com. You can see him at Fox 29 as well. Scott, last year you had Bond, you had Mitchell, you had Cooper. Those guys came out of nowhere, really. You had 2 rookies, and you had Bond, who became an All-Pro. How confident are you that those guys can equal or better their seasons they had last year?
It's really going to be hard to better what they did because, to your point, what would be better than that right now, right? I mean, I think you can quantify it with some numbers, sure, but they were every time a team would try to throw at Quinyon Mitchell, he was on par. I mean, he was right there and he was doing what he was supposed to do. Cooper DeJean, the pick 6 in the Super Bowl, his best play, right? I mean, there's nothing that's going to top that. Zach Bond, the interception in the Super Bowl. That was beautiful the way he dove. And I don't know that those guys can play better. What you need them to do is basically say they're going to play at the level they were at. I think if they could do that, that would be fantastic. But again, what could be better for Cooper DeJean? Well, seeing him be able to handle knowing what he needs to do out of the nickel and then a corner and then a safety position. If they try to move him around and disguise what he is in that way, that's one way to be better. Quinyon Mitchell, actually making some interceptions instead of letting them fall through his hands multiple times. That's one way that he could be better. Zach Bond, now you are the guy. I think opposing defenses are going to game plan against him a little more than they did last year because going into the season, they know this is the linebacker we've got to try to watch out for a little bit. I think those are all things that we're going to be looking at. I think it's unfair to say that you've got to be better if you're those 3 guys, but if you can be what you were and maybe improve on that throughout the season, I think I would be a happy camper for sure.
How are you to grade this wide receiver room this year as opposed to last year and where they've been? You got A.J. Brown and Smith. We know that. Dotson now in year 2. They'd make the trade for John Mechie III. Darius Cooper, I don't know if you've got a chance to see him up at training camp at all this year, but everybody seems to think, man, this is a guy that they found diamond in the rough here.
Yeah, it's interesting when you look at this wide receiver room because you're right? We all know A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. I mean, if you don't, you're obviously not a football fan. When you look beyond that, though, it's the way they constructed this room. It's very interesting because they all have different skill sets, and I think that's what they tried to do here. When you look at what Mechie's skill sets are versus the other guys that are in there, it's very important to see. Jahan Dotson has talked about it. His second year in this system, he got here right at the beginning of the season last year where they were already into the regular season when they made the trade. He had to learn this system fast. There wasn't the time to really develop the chemistry with, Jalen Hurts. Now throughout this offseason, he has had that ability to really build a better understanding of this offense, better chemistry with Jalen Hurts. And I wouldn't be surprised if he definitely has a better year statistically than he did last year. So I think when you look at this wide receiver room, I have high expectations for them because I think they're going to have to throw the ball a little bit more. But, the question is, will they be able to do it at a high enough level? And I think they've put together different pieces that whatever the situation calls for, hey, we have a guy who can go streak down the field. We have a guy who can go over the middle. We have a guy who's a real possession receiver on third down. We need him. I think that's the way they looked at this receiver group and said, we need this, 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 and this. That's our group.
Let me get your thoughts on the running back situation. Saquon Barkley, are you concerned about his workload from a year ago and how much they use him again this year? Do they have sufficient enough guys around him, behind him this time around?
I do like the pickup of A.J. Dillon. I really did like that pickup. I think that's going to end up paying dividends for them in situations where they need some short yardage. He's a guy who can do it where you don't have to put that wear and tear on a Saquon Barkley per se. I also think Will Shipley is a guy to keep an eye on. I think this team has some ideas of a role for him to play more than he did last year that I think he's going to help alleviate some of those touches for Saquon. So I think you got to keep an eye on those two guys. Now, Saquon's still going to get his bulk of carries. What I'm really curious to see, though, is if they try to temper that early in the season so that as they go on through the season, then they build up those touches a little bit more to games where they need them more. But it's hard to say. I mean, Saquon says he wants the ball. He does not want any of those touches taken away. If it's his job to get the ball, he wants the ball and he wants to take it and do what he's supposed to do with it. So I think as you look at Saquon, I think they're going to try to protect him. They know how valuable he is, but every game, I mean, right off the bat with the Cowboys, you got to go down there and establish that run game, I think, and really try to build the passing game off of that. That's what I want to see this offense do. But with Saquon and the touches, I would not be surprised if they try to limit that a little bit early on and get him into maybe the first month of the season before they really lean on him a little harder.
All right, Grayson's grades. Let's grade the replacements for Darius Slay. How are you looking at the replacements at that spot?
Yeah, that's an interesting one because, Slay brought so much to you over there because, last year what happened was everybody looked at Slay and they said, okay, they would test him a little bit, but he was proving that he's still, a decent, really solid cornerback. So then they would go to Quinyon Mitchell's side, and Quinyon was, of course, getting tested as a rookie and living up to the test. I think that position is still unsolved. I think they're still going to go into this year. I don't think they were very happy with how that played out, and I think they've got to try to figure out what guy wants the job the most. So to me, week one is very important to watch what happens with that position opposite Quinyon, which is why I think they tried Cooper over there a little bit because they thought they might need to. But I'm not sold on that one. That is one of the positions that I'm fine with Quinyon, right? But on the other side, opposite him, I'm not totally comfortable in saying that I think they're going to be solid over there. And that's one place, if I'm the Cowboys, I might be looking to exploit early in the game.
Let's go to Grayson's grades on the new safety spot. You replaced Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. How would you take a look at what's left over now? Makuba and Sidney Brown. They got rid of Tristan McCollum today.
Yeah, that was an interesting one. But I wouldn't be surprised if they were able to get him back on the practice squad. That being said, though, Andrew Makuba, I think, has shown that he could be the guy out there. But his injury status and his injury-prone status really is what's going to kind of possibly keep him from being out there in week one or two. And I think that's where you look at, Keely Ringo has been a guy who wasn't really doing as well as they wanted to at that spot. So there's another place opposite Reed Blankenship that I think is going to be interesting to keep an eye on. And again, we all know there's still a week and a day until they play. Howie is probably working some phones at some of these positions we're talking about, thinking if he can get better there, he's going to try to. They have so many draft picks the safety next to Reed, I'm really interested to see what happens with that as well.
Yeah, that's a big one there. And then obviously, Jahad Campbell, what is your, expectations for him? Nakobe Dean's out till at least the 5th week of the season. I wonder do we ever see Nakobe Dean get his job back?
Well, get his job. What will his job be? Yes, I think that's an interesting one because Jahad Campbell has had a great mini camp, has had a great training camp, and I think he's really asserting himself as a guy to watch. And the interesting thing is he could be the Zach Bond of this year in the sense that, he could come out of nowhere as a rookie and be that good. I think that's what they're looking at. He was a steal of the draft for sure for this team. And then so you say, okay, when Nakobe Dean comes back, then what happens? Well, I wouldn't be surprised if Vic Fangio dials up some packages where he throws all three guys out there and somebody may work on being an edge rusher and a little bit of you might see Jahad come out that way a little bit and be, again, it's all about disguising what you can do. And I think Vic Fangio is built and has been able to bring in pieces where he can disguise what role a guy might be playing because you don't know truly where they are. And I think that's going to be fascinating to watch. And Jahad Campbell could be one of those guys, which would allow Nakobe Dean to get on the field a little bit as well. And Nakobe's chomping at the bit to get back. He was right away tweeting and putting out there on social media, Week 5, I'll be there. I think that's the target for him and the team, and it's only going to make the team better when he gets there too. So it's a good problem for the Eagles to have, Mike.
Yeah, let's see how that all shakes out there. Obviously, Campbell, the number one or the first-round draft choice, not number one overall, but he was their first-round pick. Many people thought that he slipped. Does he play so well that they can't find a way to get him off the field to get Dean back on the field? The obvious guy that makes this defense go is Jalen Carter, and I wonder, in your vision, do you have a bigger year than he had a year ago? That was year 2. This is now year 3.
Yeah, I mean, he's one guy you could look at, and if that defensive line is going to have success, he has to have at least the kind of year he had last year, if not better, because he really frees up everything else, right? He draws so much attention. The linebackers benefit off of what he does. They can get in the gaps and stop the run, right? We saw that last year. The pass rush benefits because wherever Jalen goes, he draws multiple guys, and that allows other guys like a Nolan Smith, a Jalix Hunt. Hey, look, Jordan Davis to me is a guy to keep an eye on. He popped eyeballs when he showed up at camp, and we saw how cut he was. I mean, he clearly has put a lot into understanding that he had to lose some weight. He had to be more mobile and more athletic, and he does not want to come off the field as much as he did a year ago. So I think while you can say, yes, Jalen Carter's a big piece, I'm really looking at Jordan Davis to say what kind of 1-2 punch can those two guys be in the middle that could allow the guys on the outside really to feed. And so I would argue you got to watch not just Jalen Carter, but Jordan Davis as well. And can Jalen Carter have a bigger year than last year? I think he can. As you said, year 3. I think the guy is primed for a big year, and I think he needs to have one for this defense to really have the kind of success it did a year ago.
All right, Grace's grades are up after every Eagles game over at 97.3ESPN.com. It is the Eagles and the Cowboys Thursday night football. And, of course, we'll have the grades right here on the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. After every Eagles game, you can check them out with Scott Grayson right here on the Sports Bash. It's good to have you back, man, and we're looking forward to another fun season. Hopefully that will end with us in San Francisco covering the home team again.
Yeah, that would be something else.
Did you
all
hear,
signs point to.
Did you hear what happened last week with the Sixers game?
No.
So I had saw that the Sixers are playing the Warriors.
Yes.
And then I sent you and Nick and Billy the same graphic, and you were like, dude, that's awesome. Nick wrote back like, awesome. Billy I was inviting him to a Sixers game, but he couldn't hit the button to open the tickets.
Yeah, and it's not here, Billy.
No. I said, did the 10 p.m. give it away? Did the San Francisco give it away? Poor Billy. All right, man.
Listen, Billy and details, they don't tend to always find each other.
Not normally. Grayson's back all season long. Thanks, man.
All right, thank you, Mike.
All right, Scott Grayson. Check him out on Fox 29 at S. Grayson, Fox 29 on the X platform. And I want to tell you about my friends over at DraftKings Casino. It's game time, New Jersey. The playbook for this season's action is on DraftKings Casino. Play thousands of popular slots for a shot at jackpots. Over $400 million has already been awarded. New players get 500 spins at Huff and More Puff over 10 days. Download the app, use DK973 as the code, and claim your spins after your first $5 wager. Get in the game with DraftKings Casino, home of the largest jackpot win in online casino game history. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 21 or older. Presently physical in New Jersey. Eligibility restrictions apply. New customers only. Non-withdrawable casino spins issued as 50 spins per day for 10 days, valid for a featured game only, and they expire each day after 24 hours. See terms and conditions at casino.draftkings.com/promos. It ends on October 2025 at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. All right, Phil's tonight against the Braves. Don't have the lineup out yet, but I do have the Phillies' numbers against starter Cal Quantrill. Schwarber 3 for 19 with 3 homers. Harrison Bader 5 for 7 with 3 homers. I would imagine he's in the lineup tonight. Turner 5 for 11 with 2 homers. Kepler 5 for 24 with a homer. Castellanos 2 for 9 with a homer. Romuto 2 for 12. Marsh is 4 for 11. Hartford 2 for 10. Bohm is 3 for 7. Stott is 2 for 7. And Sosa's 1 for 3. That's the Phillies' numbers against Cal Quantrill. By the way, Jay Wright has announced he is stepping down from his broadcasting job with TNT and CBS. You're not going to see him during the NCAA tournament. He says he wants to be more focused with his family and focus on his role as special assistant to the president at Villanova. When that Phillies lineup drops, we'll have it for you here on the Sports Bash. Football at 4 on the way. Football and Forest powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. It's brought to you by the Fanatics Sportsbook at Ocean Casino Resort. Go to oceanac.com for more information and go for the win. Phillies lineup just dropped. It's brought to you by Instant Services, South Jersey's premier HVAC, plumbing, and electrical service provider. Go to instantservices.com to learn about their preventative maintenance memberships and how they can keep your systems running strong year-round. Andrew's going to join us in just a couple moments. He's still at Eagles practice and availability up there, so as soon as that wraps up, he'll jump on the line with us to give us a recap of today's practice. But Phillies lineup, I was pretty much right on it, except for they made one little move. The players I got right, just where they are in the lineup. Turner, Schwarber, Harper, Real Muto. Marsh is hitting 5th today. Bohm is hitting 6th today. He has been dropped down one spot, I guess because there's a righty. They're trying to go right, left, right. Then Kepler, then Bader, then Stott. So it's Turner, Schwarber, Harper, Real Muto, Marsh, Bohm, Kepler, Bader, and Stott. Nola on the mound tonight. That's your Phillies lineup brought to you by Instant Services. Go to instantservices.com. Phillies taking a while to get that lineup. Hey, I knew the lineup an hour and a half ago. I gave you pretty much. Well, I got Bohm and Marsh flip-flop there. I thought that Bohm, they would just keep him in the 5 spot, and then they would go with Marsh 6. I had Marsh 6, Kepler 7th, Bader 8th, and Stott 9th. They went with Marsh 5th, Bohm 6th. I like that, though. I don't like Marsh hitting 5th. But I like Bohm getting slid down another spot there. He should be a little bit deeper in the lineup. The problem they have is they don't have a 4 and a 5 guy.
Well, that's the problem. When you tell me that Marsh is 5th and Bohm 6th, it just you just eye roll because you're like, see, this is the problem with this team. They don't have the length in the lineup.
That's their biggest problem. They do not have, when you say the length, they actually, it's not that they don't have the length. It's they don't have the middle. The bottom half of the lineup, like if you have Bohm 6 and like Marsh 7th, Bader 8, Stott 9, like those guys are all okay. Nothing special about them. They're just, they're good. They're not great. Right. Their problem is in the middle of that lineup is where they lack the pop. They don't have that power. They don't have anybody you fear in the middle of the lineup. Now, Castellanos is the outfielder who's the odd man out tonight. So, hey, I'll give them credit for that. They're staying it up a little bit and putting Kepler into this rotation. He's not just starting because. So there's a right-handed pitcher tonight. He's not playing. Now, last night there was a right-handed pitcher, and Marsh didn't play. But, I'll give him a little bit of credit for making the decision to, again, not hit Castellanos just because. But that's for me, that's where Castellanos was signed to hit. He was signed to be the guy to hit number 4.
Correct.
And you can't hit him there because he's just not productive enough. So now, unfortunately, you don't have the pop in the middle of the lineup. That, to me, is where they have their issues. The bottom half of their lineup, I mean, I don't want to say they have this great length, but there's not like an automatic out in that lineup where you're like,
Definitely
this
not.
guy stinks. You just got a bunch of average guys at the bottom half of the lineup. It's the middle of the lineup. Like if Real Muto was able to hit 6th or 7th with what he's doing right now.
That'd be great.
Exactly. If Bohm is hitting 6th or 7th, with what he does. He's a guy that puts the ball in play, hits a lot of doubles, doesn't strike out a whole heck of a lot.
But again, it goes back to the roster construction. When you add Kepler in the offseason and you trade for Bader at the deadline, these are not moves that make that middle of the lineup better. It just adds more random pieces that take you 10 million years to set a lineup every afternoon.
I don't know what took so long to put the lineup together today. I mean, it's like 4 o'clock it came out.
I mean, how does
normally.
that conversation go? Hey, guys, we're running out of time. We got to put the lineup out because
I don't know what time it has to officially be in. I mean, the game is not till 6:40, so I don't know when before.
But, what are you figuring out?
Well, I will say there's a lot right now. You got 4 outfielders for 3 spots, so you're trying to figure out which guy's sitting tonight and why.
Did you get to the ballpark late? Did you sleep in too late?
Who knows?
Mattingly had to crunch some more numbers.
Who knows when Mattingly and Dombrowski were available? They might have had a business meeting, or maybe they had some sort of client thing. They've been on the road for the last couple of days. And they're just getting home.
But New York is not Seattle.
I can understand that there's probably a lot of conversation on back and forth on this. Now, looking at the numbers against Quantrill tonight, Bader you knew was going to be in the lineup.
Right.
So Bader's numbers against Quantrill have been really good.
Correct.
So it was seemingly, I guessed the lineup at 2:30 this afternoon. So I don't know what took them so long. I can't really comment on why it just came out right now. Normally when that happens, when it takes that long, it generally means something happened. A move, a roster move, some
Something.
sort of demotion.
Yeah.
And that's why it takes them so long to kind of, get it out there.
Not in this case.
Not in this case. I mean, the only thing that was changed is March is hitting 5th and Bohm is hitting 6th. That's it. Other than that, everything has been, it's pretty much the same. The only thing I would say is maybe at some point today, when they have their little pregame meeting, all right, what's the lineup today? What are we looking at? Well, here's the numbers. You got Bader. He's going to play today because look at his numbers against Quantrill.
Right.
And there wasn't really anybody that you were like, Bader's 5 for 7 with 3 homers. So you knew he was playing. I mean, you could have made the decision like, hey, Castellanos is 2 for 9 with a homer. Okay, he's the worst of the group. Kepler was 5 for 24. Marsh was 4 for 11. So you're saying, okay, Castellanos is the guy who's not going to play today. Other than that, don't know. Unless, hey, do we want to sit Castellanos again? All of those things, but it shouldn't have taken this long. No doubt about that. I'll give you that.
Yeah, it just feels like they're almost like they're almost like not wanting to let. They're almost Sirianniing you. They're almost trying to I don't want to let you know. I don't want to give them a competitive advantage. Everybody's like, bro, there's no competitive advantage here. Just tell us. Doesn't matter.
Well, exactly. There's nothing that you're looking at here and saying, well, the Braves, by the way, put their lineup out about an hour ago. All right, Sports Pass Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, and watch the show live on the X platform, YouTube, at Mike Gill Show. Couple Eagles things. We're going to talk to Andrew DeCecco here in just a couple of minutes. He is up at Eagles practice. They are just finishing up the practice today. By the way, 1 week from tonight, you can listen to the Eagles and the Cowboys on 97.3 ESPN. It is finally here. The Eagles season, it is back, and they unveiled their initial 53-man roster on Tuesday and then made a couple tweaks. One of the tweaks was they're bringing back safety Marcus Epps. He is a member of the 2022 team that went to the Super Bowl. He was a 17-game starter on that team, played all 3 playoff games, including the Super Bowl. Then he signed with Vegas in the offseason, started 17 games. He was a team captain in Vegas for the Raiders, and then he tore his ACL and got hurt last year. Ends up missing all but 3 games, signs in the offseason, gets a 1-year deal with the New England Patriots. And with the Patriots, they end up moving on from him. Apparently, according to some reports, he asked for his release. So I don't know what to make of that. Did he think he was not going to play? He didn't like the defense, didn't think this was the right fit for him? Don't know. Can't answer that question for you. But does Marcus Epps signing suggest that the Eagles are not happy with the safety position that they have? Is he automatically, he's on the practice squad right now, so I don't imagine he's going to be a factor in the game. But
you do get 3 call-up with the practice squad. So is he a guy that they are going to call up week 1 against Dallas and maybe get him some run?
See, I don't know about that. I maybe, and what I was going to say is it a sign that they're not confident in Sidney Brown? Because I feel like everything is kind of pointed that, man, Sidney Brown, for whatever reason, they just don't seem. Now, I was a little surprised that they released Tristan McCollum the other day.
I was shocked.
And that made me kind of say, okay, maybe they feel pretty good about Makuba and Sidney Brown. And then today they go out and do this. So I was a little surprised by the fact that the Eagles, moved on from Tristan McCollum. Now, Marcus Epps is a guy that, I talked about him on the other day when I saw the fact that he got released, and I was wondering, okay, is he a guy that fits here? I don't know. He's coming off an ACL. Not sure what he's going to bring to the table, if he's just kind of like the security blanket, like, hey, we just want to have a veteran guy at that position around just in case. But, as you said, he has the 3 call-ups, and I don't know. I don't know that they're going to call him up for Thursday's game. but I think that he will be a guy that can help out at practice, that kind of stuff, and maybe Makuba and Sidney Brown see that they brought a veteran in, and that elevates them a little bit.
I mean, hopefully. I would like to know, because, Epps never played for Fangio. When he was here, he was with Gannon.
Mm-hmm. Similar concepts.
But we know Fangio, he has been very aggressive in his saying, I don't care if you're the best guy talent-wise. It's important that you know our defense. You know the scheme. So how long is it going to take Epps to prove to Fangio that he can be on the field?
Well, and we'll talk to Andrew to see if he was even at practice today. Was he at? Did you see anything? I saw Covey was at practice today.
I saw Covey was at practice today, which was, again, the fact that there was no announcement before practice, and then all of a sudden he just shows up and he's got the Guardian cap on. He's running drills. You're like, where did he come from?
Yeah, all of a sudden, we're looking at social media, and there is no post that, hey, the Eagles have officially signed Britton Covey, who just happened to be there at practice in uniform, ready to go. So there's not an official word from the Eagles on that, but it seems that is the answer to their punt return conundrum there. Gone are Trevor Keegan and Tristan McCullum, and they brought in Willie Lampkin, who was another interesting story, a rookie free agent by the Rams, had a knee injury, got put on the injured list, and then the Eagles end up picking him up. So let's take a look at the practice report today. And, of course, it's Football at 4 with Andrew DeCecco from the Inside the Birds podcast. Plenty of new material up right now over at InsideTheBirds.com and the Inside the Birds podcast as Andrew, fresh off the practice field at the NovaCare Complex, joins us here on a Football at 4 Thursday. What's going on, Andrew?
Hey, Mike. How you doing?
All right, buddy. It's, 1 week from kickoff. This time next week, we'll be previewing the Eagles and the Cowboys and a couple new faces at practice today. Let's first get Marcus Epps, your thoughts on that signing. He goes to the practice squad. It's just hey, we want a little insurance, a little extra depth here because Tristan McCollum gets cut. And was Epps there today?
Yeah, he was there, at least from what I was able to see, and he's a veteran safety. He's going to give them some insurance, and when you have three safeties on the 53-man roster right now, having somebody who started 17 games for you in 2022 and was a pretty effective player, I think that's a savvy addition. So they kind of fortified the depth there. I thought that was a smart signing.
So he's in the house now. Also, picture surfacing of a punt returner, Britton Covey, at practice today. No official word or anything that I've seen yet, but
it's on the Eagles website.
Okay, so they have updated that because it was kind of like, hey, look who just showed up. So Britton Covey, because Nick Sirianni was pretty coy about the whole situation on Tuesday.
Yeah, but he intimated that we like our options and we have a plan. And a couple days later, we learned that a potential plan could be someone who they're very familiar with in Britton Covey. And 14.4 yards per return, that was his average in 2023. Effective player, was buried with the Rams in a deep receiving core, ends up back in Philadelphia. He's wearing number 85, by the way, and we'll have to wait and see. I would keep an eye on him as a potential week one elevation.
All right, Andrew, the final initial 53, let's say, because that's already been tweaked a little bit there. Then they brought a bunch of guys back to the practice squad. Was there anything from Tuesday that kind of stood out to you, or was this kind of how you saw it all going down?
More or less. I mean, I had E.J. Jenkins, full disclosure, on my 53 because of his blocking prowess. I thought his skill set was less redundant than that of Kylan Granson. I thought E.J., in theory, could have fulfilled that Johnny Wilson role as someone who can do the dirty work and free his teammates up to make plays that Nick Sirianni really values, like Zach Pascal, Olamide Zaccheaus, Johnny Wilson last season. But Kylan Granson sticks. He's had the better camp between the two. He's a better pass catcher, and he can give you some special teams value as well. Other than that, nothing too crazy. The practice squad maybe not bringing back Montrell Johnson Jr. They still don't have a running back right now. And Lance Dixon, the linebacker, was a player who I thought did some good things this summer, but he did suffer an injury in the preseason. Chance Campbell actually made the practice squad, and he was signed 2 days before the finale. So interesting there, but other than that, nothing too surprising. Anais Smith maybe, but he ends up on the Carolina Panthers practice squad.
Landon Dickerson, A.J. Brown, both practicing out there. A good sign, and the feeling is they'll both be on the field Thursday night?
That's the feeling that I get. They're trending in the right direction 2 days in a row. So, like I've been saying, really for the past 3 weeks, that there was no need to sound the alarm for A.J. Brown. Landon Dickerson was week to week, but the signs were sort of positive, trending in that direction that he would be available. But for A.J. Brown, I've always said that my impression was that the team was being conservative and trying to preserve him and get him ready for, week one preparation.
Let's go back to safety real quick, Andrew. Get your thoughts on Makuba, hamstring. I know it's a week away. Things could change, but is that something that you would be concerned about at this stage early in the year, with Drew Makuba?
No, not necessarily. I mean, the Eagles certainly aren't going to rush him back, and I think now between Cooper DeJean, Marcus Epps, Sidney Brown, there's enough players there, Andre Sam on the practice squad, that they have an answer, and I think it's just a matter of if, not when, Drew Makuba becomes the starter. They're going to likely open the season with Sidney Brown, but there's still a week to figure that out. But just Sidney Brown's taking the lion's share of first team reps all summer, so I think it behooves the Eagles to go with the player who's been in the mix for longer, and Makuba's flash, but he hasn't gotten a ton of practice reps. But obviously, in a matter of weeks, I expect that to change.
All right, Andrew, when we look at the Eagles, a lot of times you take a look at the top players on this team. I know you're a guy who knows the ins and outs of these teams. Willie Lampkin signed yesterday, and this one made a little bit of news. He's a guy who was on the waived injured list, and a lot of times it's kind of like, hey, you don't do anything there, but the Eagles go and snag this guy. Now, a lot of people talking very positively about him. He was out at practice today. Was this a guy that you had your eye on at the draft?
Yeah, I liked him. He's kind of built like a spark plug, 5'11", 279, has a wrestling background, played football at North Carolina. The Eagles had to really like him, obviously, because this is a player who sustained an injury to his knee and his ankle sprain against the Chargers in the preseason. I get the sense that, being buried on a very deep offensive line group, it allows him the ability to develop and grow under Jeff Stoutland, and the Eagles really prioritize player development more so than I could think of any team right now, and he's in the right place. He has some athleticism, some power, and he plays with good leverage, and I think that was a really savvy addition.
All right, let's real quick take a look at, you talk about player development, Darius Cooper. I know a lot of people probably never heard of him, a guy who played at Tarleton State. If there was a reason that he had to play, I don't know how much playing time. These are one of those great stories. He makes a team undrafted, and now it's go time, and you hope that you don't have to see him all that much. But what is it about his skill set that maybe stands out, that if he gets an opportunity that he runs with it?
Yeah, that's a good question, Mike, and I really like his strength, his ability to create yards after the catch. He's tough to bring down, but he's really consistent. And what really stood out to me was when Nick Sirianni was talking about the roster decisions on Tuesday, he mentioned his ability to potentially do that dirty work and help in the blocking element, of course, special teams as well. I think he's going to help the team, and it just may look a little bit different than maybe in a traditional receiving role to start. But Johnny Wilson did a lot of things last season that didn't show up in the box score, and there's things that you can't quantify. Darius Cooper, I think, is going to be a contributor for this team because, one, he's smart, he's consistent, he's tough, and then when he does get the football, we've seen what he can do. He's absolutely an NFL player, belongs on the field, and I think right now he's going to have a long career.
All right, we're keeping our eye on the Eagles, getting ready. 1 week from today, you'll hear the game right here on 97.3 ESPN. It's the Eagles and the Cowboys. Andrew DeCecco and the guys over at the Inside the Birds podcast have plenty of new stuff up all season long. Check it out. Check out the website and check out the podcast, InsideTheBirds.com. He's Andrew DeCecco here on Football at 4. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, there's Andrew over at the NovaCare Complex. Quick check-in from there, as obviously now he tweeted out some new numbers, by the way, and one of them is Darius Cooper. He's wearing number 80. John Mechie is now number 18. Jacorian Bennett will be number 41. Marcus Epps is number 39. Britton Covey is wearing number 85 on the field today. So there you go for all the people just tuning in. Britton Covey is back. Marcus Epps is back. It's the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. And live video is streaming on the X platform and on YouTube. At Mike Gill Show. Phil's lineup is out. We gave that to you. Brought to you by Instant Services as they're getting ready to play the Braves tonight. Got to get a little life in the Phils tonight, right? You got to imagine the Nuggets not happy. Now, he was at the 97.3 ESPN Fantasy Football Draft last night.
Yes, he was.
Now, he was doing another draft at the same time.
Yes, he was.
Violation. Can't do two at the same time. Weak sauce.
You could explain that to him. To come
Weak
on
sauce. No, he was live in person at
Yeah.
Urie's?
He was there.
No, I'll give him credit for that. Who else made it? Schweimer?
Schwein was there.
Wow. 2 points for the Schweim.
Also Alex
New man Alex.
and Jim McClain.
Wow. Salesman Jim.
Yeah.
No PG.
No PG.
Weak sauce.
PG got made fun of on the stream, by the way. One of the viewers said PG looked like he was hiding from his parents. It was so dark in the room.
I don't understand. The only reason he said he wanted to be in the league in the first place was because he was all excited about the thing being on location at Urie's last night.
Now, you know PG longer than I have, so what do you think the reason was?
Oh, he probably got told he wasn't allowed.
Oh, okay. One of those situations.
Possible.
Got it.
It's possible. That would be my working theory. His wife said, "You're not going to Urie's." It's kind of a far drive for him.
It is a bit of a drive. That is true.
All right, Nuggets is coming up. Sports Bash Live. Who had the best draft? Nate, front desk Nate?
Well, Nate had the first overall pick. But
Oh, I didn't know that.
A couple of his picks were a little weird, though, throughout the draft. I would say probably, without looking at everybody's lineup right now, like in front of me, but off the top of my head, I think Scott Grayson had a really good draft.
Scott Grayson, big draft.
Yeah.
Casey Joyner?
Casey Joyner was good. Andy McNamara stole a couple guys I wanted.
Okay.
Of course, you know who took the first quarterback. All reliable. There's only one man every year who takes quarterback first. That's Deshaun Hendricks.
Yeah?
Because he always takes Lamar Jackson.
I like the fact that Deshaun's still in the league.
Two-time champ.
Nice.
He wasn't there, though. He was busy with kids.
All right, by the way, Phils are rocking the powder blues tonight.
I like powder blue.
Back on a Thursday night.
It's way better than the City Connects.
More Sports Bash coming up. Knicks Nuggets on the way. Stick around. 97.3 ESPN. Time for the Nuggets. They're brought to you by the Hub, gear that works as hard as you do. I'm Mike Gill, Sports Bash Live. What day is it? Thursday? I don't know what day it is. I'm running out of gas today. Sports Bash is a Thursday edition. Next week, going to get you ready for Eagles and Cowboys. By the way, at this time next week, Phillies Brewers. Big one there. All right, time for the Nuggets. Nick Earnshaw is host of the Shift podcast. He is the producer of The Locker Room weekends on 97.3 ESPN. And he has today's edition of Nick's Nuggets on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. There he is, the Nuggets. What's up, man?
What's going on, Mike? I mean, we got to address the weak sauce comment about the draft last night. Listen, I make the trek an hour and 20 minutes to Yuri's last night. I had to do 2 drafts at once. And guess what? By the way, I also want to preface with this. I am the winner of last year's league in 97.3 ESPN's Fantasy League. It was my first year in the league, won the league. I also have another draft. I couldn't help it. It was the best time for everyone to do it. I said, all right, I'll dual draft. And guess what? I've done it before. Won the league last year when I dual draft the 97.3 ESPN league. And, it doesn't matter. I think it's a skill. I think it's an absolute skill. The fact I can multitask, do 2 drafts at once. I mean, where's the weak sauce coming from? I don't understand. I think it's strong sauce right there, Mike.
Nah, I mean, you're doing 2 at one time means that you're not putting as much attention on one league as the other, and then somebody gets kind of ripped off. No. That you're not paying attention, then you miss a pick because, all that kind of stuff.
Well, listen, I mean, I can't make the schedule for the other draft. It's not up to me. I put my input in, I gave my availability, and, I can't do much more than that. If it was more available for the other people, it was online, so it wasn't like in person or anything. It was an online draft, so I'm doing 2 at once. I had prepared the draft for the most part ready to go, so I knew what my picks were. I knew who I wanted to go with, etc. I think it's a skill. If you can multitask, do 2 at once, I don't think that's weak sauce. I prefer not to do 2 at once, but sometimes, scheduling happens, and everyone wants to always do the drafts around the same time.
All right. Well, a couple people texted in, says they agree it's weak sauce. I'm just saying.
I totally disagree. I think it's admirable, to be honest. The fact that I'm giving my time to both, I think it's admirable, to say the least. But I'm just going to say I'm the defending champ. Defending champ of the 97.3 ESPN League. I'm going to take it.
As long as you didn't delay or hold up the draft because you were, a lot of times you get people doing 2 at the same time, and then they're, hold on, I'm picking to my other league right now. Nah, I don't care.
No, but by the way, Yuri's was fantastic. The wings were great. The mott sticks were great. Everything was awesome last night at Yuri's. So we had an absolute fantastic time. Shout out to Josh for helping put that together. It was awesome. But I will reclaim my crown, and I'll do 2 drafts at once, and I'll probably win both leagues anyway. So, I won 2 out of my 3 leagues last year. I expect 3 out of 3 this year. So, that's how we're going into it. All right? So we'll move along to the Nuggets. I'm going to get upset today because, we have to. After the performance, the disgraceful performance by the Philadelphia Phillies, to go into Citi Field, you lose 2 out of 3. You lose series sometimes, all right? And you've had trouble with the Mets. I understand, all right? But to absolutely get swept, destroyed in last night's game, come on. The first 5 batters of the order for the Mets were 9 for 19, 4 runs scored, and all 6 RBIs. The Phillies have lost 10 straight at Citi Field. They have 29 games to go, only a 4-game lead in the division as of right now. And last night's effort, can I say the plate discipline was just a joke overall? That was bad. I understand good pitching performances. They happen too. But the plate discipline wasn't there either, okay? There was guys swinging at first pitches when runners were on. Bohm, I think Kepler popped out or something when Bohm was on base. It was bad plate discipline last night, Mike, overall. And the body language was awful too. You cannot go into a series, a massive one like the Mets, and give that type of effort, score no runs in the final game, and get swept out of the building. That is unacceptable from the Phillies' perspective. And that blame goes to everybody, from Dombrowski to Thompson to the pitching staff to the lineup. Everybody gets a little flack today because that was a disgrace, the fact they get swept by the New York Mets. You're giving them life. You're giving them life with 29 games to go.
Nothing I can disagree there. Everybody top to bottom, you get blame in that. When you get swept in a lifeless situation when the division is at hand to push them out, and all of a sudden you look up and it's a 4-game thing, Yeah, everybody's in play here. Everybody gets blamed, from the players, Dombrowski, Thompson. Everybody has a hand in this. This is a team effort of ineptitude in this series. And, whether it's the messaging, look, I don't know. Like, if I say right now, is it the Mets or is it Citi Field? Like, what is it? Are the Mets better than you are? Or is it this Citi Field thing a real thing? Like, what? Because the Phillies have beaten the Mets this year 2 out of 3 at Citizens Bank Park. By the way, the Phillies lost last night and the Dodger win last night. The Dodgers are now the 2 seed. The Phillies are the 3. And if the playoffs started right now, you'd be playing the Mets.
I mean, what is it with these blue and orange teams in New York? The Sixers can't beat them. The Phillies can't beat them. The Phillies felt like the Sixers last night. That's the takeaway I had, is that the Phillies, after this series, they felt like the Sixers. They get your hopes up, right? They play well during the regular season. Awesome. And then when push comes to shove, it comes time to bear down and win a ball game. They can't do it. They just cannot do it. And the fact that it's another New York team in another sport that you just have trouble with and just cannot beat, it's amazing to me. I mean, remember the Knicks fans were taking over the Sixers arena. I mean, you can't have the Met fans take over Citizens Bank Park. I hope that doesn't happen. That would be even worse if the postseason were coming. That were to happen. But my goodness, you're giving them life. The Mets fans are going to come crawling out of their hole now, because they're going to come crawling out of Pete's basement, in his mother's basement last night where he was at during the draft. That's where they're all going to come crawling out of.
By the way, Kyle Schwarber in the midst of an 0-for-20 slump. I haven't seen any texts like sign Schwarber now, like none of those texts recently.
I'll tell you what, he just hasn't come up big against the Mets. I don't know, like you said, I don't know if it's a Mets thing or a Citi Field thing. It just feels like the Mets have the Phillies number. It's just a bad matchup for them. They're just one of those teams where you just can't beat them. And they're like the Marlins from a few years ago.
Is it a bad matchup? The Phillies took 2 out of 3 against the Mets at Citizens Bank Park. So it wasn't a bad matchup in June when they played them.
It was last year in the postseason, though. In the postseason, it was last year. It was a bad matchup. It was awful. They lost the game at Citizens Bank Park and then won one and then got taken out of the building last year when Estevez came in. So, listen, they're struggling with the Mets on the road. You're going to have to play them at Citi Field again if you do face them in the postseason. Is it going to come back to bite you? Is it going to haunt you that, we're going into this ballpark? Like, do they just have their number? I understand they've beaten them at Citizens Bank Park, but that was early on in the season. That's way down the line. We're now getting into August and September.
It was right around the All-Star break. It was like one of the last series, before the All-Star break. I think it was like late June they played them. They beat them 2 out of 3. But, yeah, I mean, look, you're not going to win when Schwarber's in an 0-for-20 slump in the middle of the series. You can't win like that. And the whole top of the lineup just didn't produce. I mean, it's been a problem. And, look, you have a situation where you're down in the game, you fight back, you tie the game up, and then Duran blows the lead for you. So everything that could have gone wrong in this series, you had a little pixie dust of everybody getting the blame here. All the people, everybody out there, you get some blame and you get some blame. That's what happens when you get swept, especially when you get swept and you have the lead in the division and the team from behind you needs these games to make this month of September actually mean something. Now all of a sudden they do.
Yeah, last night was a joke from the baseball team last night.
I will say,
bad loss. Bad.
Sometimes you do have to tip your cap. That kid was awesome last night.
He was awesome last night. He looked like Nolan Ryan. I mean, yeah, just bad overall from the Phillies. You got to come out and beat the Braves. I mean, you have to. You have to come out and beat the Braves. Listen, the Mets come back to your place in about a week or so. Yeah. All right, you gotta win that series. You need a sweep in that series. 2 or 3 will be nice, but you need really a sweep against the Mets. You got to go back-to-back sweeps here, but it's got to be on the other end this time.
Well, listen, if they would have won the game last night, even if they lost the series and lost 2 out of 3, they still would have a 6-game lead. Just think how different 6 games feels than 4.
4 for 29 left to go is that's real dicey right there. All right, moving along, nugget number 2. And we're going to talk about Jalen Hurts again because there is multiple people in the national media, former quarterbacks, that have talked about Jalen Hurts. And one was on today with Stephen A. Smith of First Take. Cam Newton made an appearance on First Take today, and they got into a Jalen Hurts discussion. Okay, I want you to take a listen to what Cam Newton, former Carolina Panthers quarterback, went to a Super Bowl, had to say about Jalen Hurts. Take a listen.
Jalen Hurts has so much to prove on this metric because now I go from good to great to elite. Okay. Right? Now, his circumstances are what his circumstances are. Devontae Smith, you have A.J. Brown, you have Saquon, and the whole slew of talent. He cannot do anything about that, Stephen A. Okay. What I'm saying is, as he proves his whole situation for who he needs to be and who he has to become, is consistently winning and consistently doing what he is asked to do.
What the hell is Cam Newton talking about? Seriously, he's been consistently winning. First of all, he's made the playoffs every year he's been starting. He's been to 2 Super Bowls, won 1, and I don't think Jalen Hurts would hand a Super Bowl trophy back for an MVP, as Cam Newton wouldn't give up an MVP for a Super Bowl trophy. Bad take by Cam Newton. I just don't understand why Cam Newton has so much hatred for Jalen Hurts. I mean, that's really what it is. I feel like he's jealous of Jalen because Jalen's gotten it done. He's been more successful early on in his career, and he's a better dual-threat quarterback than I think Cam Newton could be. I think at this, so maybe not just yet, but he's on his way to. And I want to play this clip too, Mike, before you respond. Listen to Peyton Manning, the guy who beat Cam Newton in a Super Bowl, talk about Jalen Hurts, and he talks about him in a very different fashion than Cam Newton. Take a listen.
I mean, he squats 600 pounds. He can, run over guys. He can throw it a mile. But his appreciation of the cerebral part of the game is what's impressive to me and how he's taken his game to the next level. And I think the sky's the limit with this guy.
There you have it. I'm going to take Peyton's word over Cam's. I'm sorry. Cam is just trying to promote his podcast. He's trying to get under people's skin. And it worked for me because I got under my skin a little bit. That's ridiculous. The ridiculous coming from Cam Newton. I will take Peyton's word, the guy who beat him in the Super Bowl, over Cam Newton any day talking about Jalen Hurts. Because guess what? Peyton talks to Jalen. And I haven't heard anything about Cam talking to Jalen.
Yeah, I couldn't care less what Cam Newton thinks or says. I mean, he, to me, is an absolute nothing, nobody in terms of this type of topic. I totally don't understand how people get so riled up about these things. It fascinates me that you would give 2 iotas of a bleep what Cam Newton said. By the way, I will play a little devil's advocate on this one just for this. He was kind of talking about he has a lot to prove, because he has what he has. I will say I did come across the Eagles' record when A.J. Brown and or Devontae Smith do not play. It's not very good. So you would say, hey, you have this great quarterback, you're missing your receiver, and your offense is generally, when those 2 guys don't play, abysmal. Every time one of those guys has been out, your offense has been awful. Is that a reason why people have problems saying, hey, look, you have those 2 guys. That's part of the reason why you're so good. But if you are truly a great, great quarterback, even if those guys are out, you shouldn't have the drop-off that you do. When A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith don't play, that offense stinks. No debate there. I don't remember one game that those guys have not played in where the offense has looked at a high school level competent.
I'm just saying, when his first year he started, he had Devontae Smith. A.J. Brown wasn't there. They went to the playoffs. I mean, that did happen. They did go to the playoffs that year when they didn't have A.J. Brown yet. And I just don't understand why we punish him for having good players around him. I mean, quarterbacks who have had a lot of success.
I'm saying, when people look at what Newton said there at the beginning kind of stood out to me. Is he's saying he's got what he's got. He's not kind of talking about that. He's saying, but, I think he was kind of saying, he's good because, he has those guys and he's good with those guys. But when I'm putting the whole piece of the puzzle together, you look at his record without A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith, it's not very good. And the offense is not very good. I mean, let's be honest. Now, I'm not penalizing him in my mind. Again, I don't care what Cam Newton says. I just watched him win the Super Bowl. So, quite frankly, he has those guys. Yeah, they're a big reason why this team is very good. And him being a part of that is a huge part of it. But I don't think we can argue here that there would be a lot of questions from people if he didn't have the caliber of A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith. I think we would be having a different conversation. That's all.
Listen, you could put him anywhere, okay? You could put Jalen Hurts anywhere. Give him receivers. You can give him lesser receivers. I still think he'd find a way to win, especially now in his career. That's earlier on in his career, right? He didn't have a Super Bowl. This year he has a Super Bowl now. He has won every single year that he's been in the league. They've gotten to the postseason. They continue to win. He's had a first-time head coach. He's had a different coordinator every single year almost, pretty much since high school as a quarterback. That's a lot to ask to learn a new system every year as well. So that's part of the equation here, too. When you're missing the guys who are part of that new offense, that's going to hurt you.
I'm not disagreeing with any of that, but I don't think you can deny that when those guys don't play.
Any quarterback will be bad if they didn't have those guys. Like you put him on the Browns. I mean, yeah, of course he's going to be not great.
But that's the
'cause they're on
point.
the
I
Browns.
think that's the point, though, is when people look at greatness, they look at it. It doesn't matter what team you're on or who's around you, that the team is going to be good regardless of who's there. I think people look at Hurts fairly or unfairly, and quite frankly, I don't give a crap if it's fair or unfair. They're looking at him and saying, if you went to the Browns, I'm not sure the Browns would all of a sudden be a Super Bowl contending team. They just don't have the talent. And I think people look at Hurts and say, are you the one elevating those two players, or are they elevating you? And if the answer is they're elevating you, I don't care. I don't care if that's the reason. He's winning the Super Bowl, so I don't give a flip at what the reason is. And you shouldn't either, and neither should anybody else.
I think Cam's a little jealous. He didn't have some of the
Maybe
weapons
he
that
is.
Jalen had.
Maybe he is jealous.
Feels like, because he said it on his podcast before, too. He's criticized Jalen. It's funny that he criticized Jalen and then Peyton talks him up. I mean, it's just funny. One guy has a couple of Super Bowls, one guy doesn't. I'm just saying.
As I said, the way to bring these comments to light is to talk about them. And that's what these people need. So they know how to get people. They go after people who they know are going to be dumb enough to comment on them. You, my friend, have won every day this week.
I'm winning every day. I'll win on the Nuggets, and I'll win the fantasy league again as well. I didn't take Jared Goff, by the way. Before I get out of here, we got to talk about something else where the Eagles win a lot is when they wear their Kelly Greens, the new ones that they brought back. They're going to be back, Mike, again.
3
and guess
games.
What? 3 games this year. Nugget number 3, perfect time. And week 8 versus the Giants. Week 12 at Dallas. And week 18 against the Commanders. All against division foes. This
I like
is
that.
Awesome. Awesome that they're playing the division foes in the Kelly Greens.
Yeah, I like that. It's fun. I mean, I don't really, the whole Kelly Green thing, it's funny. This morning, people were going nuts about this thing, and I said, yeah, I'm not a Kelly Green guy. What? Kelly Green doesn't do anything for me.
They're undefeated, Mike. Since they brought him back, they're undefeated when they wear the Kelly Greens.
Yeah, they're pretty good in the other ones, too.
I know, but they haven't lost. They haven't even lost since they brought these back. But I'm glad that they are going to be wearing them against division foes. Like playing the Dolphins and wearing them is like one thing. It's cool. Playing the Bills, that's cool. But when you play in Dallas wearing the Kelly Greens, that's awesome. When you play the New York Giants at home in the Kelly Greens, that is just awesome. It's a cool look. The fact that they're playing the teams that they have had rivalries against for years and years and years. I'm so glad it's all 3 of those games this year because I've played a random team, like the Browns or the Dolphins, whoever. It's cool, but it's not as cool as playing your division foe in those awesome uniforms. I know you don't care, but listen, they are awesome.
Yeah, if you're going to get me a jersey, midnight green, please do that for me.
Hey, Nick, I'm going to push back on you. I'm going to push back a little bit, Nick, because the 2 most iconic moments lately in the Kelly Greens were against non-divisional opponents. Remember,
I know.
Saquon Hurdle was against the Jags. The overtime win in the muck and the mess at Lincoln Financial Field with Hurts running in for the touchdown. That was against the Bills. So don't underestimate what the Eagles can do in those jerseys against non-divisional opponents, okay?
That's what I'm saying, though. It's great that now they can play against divisional opponents and have those memories and have those moments in those uniforms. against the Cowboys, the Commanders, or the Giants. That's what's great. That's why I'm glad they're playing it against those teams this year.
You are the core audience of easily manipulated, Earnshaw. You would be the guy that is just you are the one that like people like to market to. Hey, let's just put a marketing campaign together. We'll find a sucker. His name is Earnshaw.
There's nothing wrong. Listen, the Kelly Greens are popular. It's popular for a reason. Everyone loves them. They're awesome. They look great. They're better than the boring midnight green. I'm just saying they are.
Everybody likes them. Yeah, I agree.
They're awesome. Because they look great.
Okay.
And they get to play the division foes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool that they're playing the division teams in the Kelly Green. Yeah. What do you want me to say? I don't care, but yeah, you're happy. Earnshaw, I'm happy.
It's more fun.
If you're happy,
right,
I'm happy. Is the enjoyment of the game different because there's a lighter shade of green on your screen?
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right,
like
Mike,
like somebody had a clay pigeon practice with the Philly Fanatic and it landed on the Eagles jersey and they went out on the field wearing that thing. It's essentially what has happened here. All right. Sports Bash Live. That's the Nuggets today. They're brought to you by the Hub. Gear that works as hard as you do. If you bring up another Jalen Hurts list story this week, it's going to be a problem. Going to be a problem.
Had to.
Take it easy. All right, he's back tomorrow with more Nuggets here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. And you can watch the video and comment and be a part of the show at 609-403-0973 on the text board, on the X platform, and on YouTube at Mike Gill Show. All right, 5 o'clock, driving you home, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. I'm Mike Gill. What's up, everybody? Phil's tonight, late lineup tonight, but the lineup is out against the Braves. A little switch. You got Marsh in the 5-hole, Bohm in the 6th spot. Bader is in the lineup. Kepler's in the lineup. No Castellanos tonight for the Phillies against the Braves. 5 o'clock hour is brought to you by Whitehorse RV Center in Williamstown and Galloway. Don't miss out on the Red Tag Clearance event going on now at Whitehorse RV. Your adventure starts at Whitehorse RV in Williamstown and Galloway. Bob Cooney, NBC Sports Philadelphia, was at Citi Field, House of Horrors the last 3 nights. He goes from House of Horrors to the Ocean City Beach. Much better time as he joins us now on a Sports Bash Thursday. Bobby, what's going on, man?
Mike, how are you, buddy? Everything good?
Everything's great. Not better than what you're doing right now, but you got a front row seat for the nightmare up there at Citi Field. And, you know, as a guy who's been around teams, basketball, baseball, you get the feeling sometimes when you have a tough time against a certain team. You're walking around that clubhouse last night. Do you see a lot of bewildered looks in the faces of this Phillies team?
No, they're really careful about that, Mike, and you know, talking about it all week. And, of course, you go into the series knowing that they haven't had success up there. So the questions start early, and then the losses mount, and then the comeback happens, and then Duran happens, and, you know, all these bad things start swirling around. And, yeah, you're looking for it. You're looking for somebody to say, yeah, we're jinxed up here. But to a man, they wouldn't. Rob Thompson on down to the players. It's baseball. These things happen. There's no curse against the Mets. But, look, you've been around sports for a while. I have too. Sometimes you just feel it. You know, whether you're playing, coaching, or managing, whatever it is, sometimes things just happen. And I brought this up the other day. I remember a Sixers player telling me a while back when I was covering their team, they were really good at home and really bad on the road. And one of the players I was talking to said, it's weird. At home, we know that we're going to find a way to win. On the road, we think we're going to find a way to lose. And that's a weird mentality to have, but I think that's where the Phillies are when it comes to when it comes to Citi Field right now.
Real quick, Bob Cooney's with us. There is some breaking news. The Eagles will not see Micah Parsons on Thursday night. He has been traded. Micah Parsons has been traded to the Packers, from Dallas to the Packers, and the Packers are giving him a 4-year, $188 million deal. Sometimes, Bob, you know it when something happens live of that magnitude, but you don't have to worry about seeing Micah twice a year, man. But he is going to Green Bay, and that's a team the Eagles did face in the playoffs. I know as a sports fan, a guy who's talked about sports a lot, all of a sudden that changes the complexion of everything.
It does. You sure as hell would have liked to see him go to an AFC team, but yeah, that's out of division is good, in conference is not. I'm surprised. Yeah, how about that?
How about that?
That is. Yeah, be coming to Philadelphia for 4 more years, right, Mike?
Well, he'll be. The Eagles will go to Green Bay after the bye. They play that Packers team out there on it looks like a Monday night, or it's a primetime game, but that primetime game just got more interesting.
As a member of the Eagles,
yes,
yeah, we got 4 more years to wait for him to be a linebacker for the Eagles. So.
Yes, you got a 4-year deal extension. All right, we'll go back to Citi Field. That was a complete nightmare, but. You talked about it. That building, they've lost 10 straight out there. But one of the things, you know, we're watching the post game, and you guys are asking the questions about the building and the team and playing there, and that all starts to come. Does that start to get to them a little bit, though? Is that what puts it into their head of, man, maybe we can't, you know, we saw it with the Braves here when they came to the playoffs. Now all the Philly fans, when the Braves come here, think they can't beat us here. It's in their heads. Is it the same way for the Phillies against this Mets team, or is it just circumstantial that the Mets are playing a little bit better and the Phillies are going into one of their lulls?
Yeah, I can't imagine that it's not in their heads a little bit, Mike. It has to be. It's human nature. I mean, you know, Trey Turner, Kyle Schwarber, Bryce Harper, those guys, Castellanos, they've been here for all those losses. You know, we talked to Harrison Bader the other night, and he's like, I don't know anything about it. I wasn't here for it. But those other guys and a majority of this group have been. How can you not think about it? How do you not see in the papers, here on the radio, that, you know, you've lost 10 in a row there. You've lost, what is it now, 23 of 30, something like that.
Yeah.
Like, how can that not kind of be in your mind? So, yeah, it's definitely there. And it's, you know, it's palpable when you're watching, like the confidence that the Mets play with. a base hit with a guy on first. He's going to third. It doesn't matter where the ball is. He's going to third. Phillies, it's kind of like, oh, should I go to third? Hold up. Should I tag on this fly ball? No, let's not. Let's not. Twice last night with Bohm. So, like, it's, there is, to me, there is something there, although players and manager won't admit it. But I think we're all smart enough as fans and observers that we see it. We know what it is.
We no doubt about it. We know that this team right now is struggling there. And then, you look at the situation last night where you don't score against a pitcher. Now, listen, McLean's a young pitcher who they have a lot of, expectations for. But, man, they had no clue, and you go into the game plan in this Mets series, and the Mets just look like they have a much better approach and plan in that series, and every time they play the Phillies.
Confidently aggressive. That's how I labeled it in my head last night, that the Mets are confidently aggressive going against the Phillies. I asked Rob Thompson the other night when they had 15 strikeouts, what was that? Was that being over-aggressive? And he said, yeah, it was some of that probably. You see bats leaving guys' hands, right, Mike? How many times did we see that this series? Guys swinging and the bats flying up into the stands or into dugouts and stuff. That's not confidence swinging. That's not confidence aggression. That's not knowing exactly what you're going to do, and your leadoff hitter striking out an awful lot. It just seemed like you and I covered high school sports a lot. There was always that word intimidation. They were intimidated by this other team. I'm not going to say a pro team is intimidated by another one, but there's just a little something there, Mike, about Citi Field that they can't get over that hump just now.
Well, and, you watch it all up there. It's the little things, too. It's you pick the guy off first base, and you can't execute a rundown. You misplay,
Sure.
You air mail you miss a cutoff man, and then the guy advances another base. Now, do they turn out to be, big deals in the game? Maybe, maybe not. But it's just the little details of things that makes that feeling of what's going to happen next. That's when I'm watching the game. You're there. You can maybe feel it at the energy in that ballpark. But when you're watching the game and you see the rundown not executed, the next thing you feel is, then what? Then what? And then Duran comes in the game after you hit the home run, and then he gives up 4 straight hits, and you're thinking, oh, man, this guy who we think is invincible, he looks human all of a sudden. It's everything that could go wrong does go wrong. And you know what, Bobby? Last night they lose that game. The Dodgers win. And if the playoffs started today, you'd be playing the Mets.
Yeah, exactly. That wild card thing is real now. The race is real now. The bye is real now. Like, everything has come into play with that sweep of a series. And it was funny. We talked to Harrison Bader the night that he hit the home run, but they lost the game. And one of the guys said, if you do the math, you guys are still in a good spot. And he stopped. He goes, we're not here because we're mathematicians or we know how to do math. We're here to play baseball, and that's what we're trying to do. And it's as much as they want to deny it, that's all creeped back into action. You bring up the great point with the, having to play the Mets now. Maybe it's all back there, and you still have a 4-game series in Philadelphia against the Mets coming up. But even before that, Monday or Sunday, I got to fly out to Milwaukee. There's an important 3-game series with Milwaukee, who is on fire. So this puts a big crink in the season right now. It could change, but this team, what's maddening, I think, to people watching is they are a very contagious team. When things are going well, everybody's going well. When things start to go bad, everybody seems to go bad. And that's kind of the annoying thing, I think, that fans see with this team.
All right, a lot of people get very annoyed, Bob, after, these games in Thompson. Yeah, we got an experienced group. I like our club. We got a really good club. Does this team need a little kick? Do they need a little something extra? I got so many people that come after me on social media that, he's too laid back, comatose, he doesn't do this, he's not doing that. Does it feel like this malaise has been around for too long, that everybody's getting too comfortable?
Well, I mean, to the first part of what you're saying, like, they are an experienced team. I mean, who's going to react to, like, an ass-kicking or a team meeting or something like that? Is Kyle Schwarber? Is Bryce Harper? Trey Turner? JT Realmuto? Go down the line. This is a bunch of 30-plus-year-olds. And, I don't know who exactly is going to respond to that type of thing. Like, if you and I were to walk into a locker room and say, all right, who is going to respond to an ass-kicking? I don't know who is it. The younger players that are in the everyday lineup are like 27, 28-year-old Bryson Stott, Alec Boehm, I don't know. Like, Nick Castellanos isn't going to respond to that. So it is a fine line. And I had to sit down with Castellanos last week, just the two of us, and I was talking about leadership for a column that I was doing. He said, look, almost everybody here has built their resume. We are who we are. The only thing that's missing is that World Series win. And that's what motivates us. There's nothing else that can motivate us because we are veterans. We've been around for a long time. We've made our money, all of that stuff. What it comes down to now is winning that World Series. So I don't know if an ass-kicking, if a yelling, screaming, throwing chalkboards, I don't know if that's going to work with this group.
Bob, you just talked about Castellanos. Bob Cooney's with us, NBC Sports Philadelphia. You can check out all his coverage over there, see him on the TV before all the Phillies games. And you talked to Castellanos. He's not in the lineup tonight. This outfield thing, how are they receiving this? How is this being received by that group of guys, that little, rectangle of guys out there? Casty, Bader, Kepler, and Marsh.
Well, I'm sure not well. Now, Marsh I wouldn't worry about. He is a happy-go-lucky, guy, and he's okay with just when you put me in there, I'll play, and when you don't, I'll cheer. He's the one guy you don't have to worry about. But in Kepler, you already had a guy that said something earlier this year. He thought he was going to be an everyday outfielder. Castellanos wants to be out there every day. He didn't like it when he got sat just for defensive purposes. Now, there might be a caveat with Castellanos because, Mike, he jammed his knee up in New York when they were playing the Yankees about a month ago. And that has kind of been brought up a little bit that maybe that's aggravating him a little bit. Some days there's fondness, some days there's not. That could be the case, or it could be an excuse. Like Thompson's trying to find the 3 best out of 5 outfielders at that time against that pitcher for that night. He's still just looking for all those things. I think he wanted to sit with, just 3 guys and have them out there all the time, as he said at the trade deadline, but it just hasn't played out that way. So, Kepler's hitting the ball hard, but in some bad luck. Marsh has really tailed off lately. Castellanos did get hot, and then he started this rotation thing with him. So I'm wondering if it's more the knee than it is anything else. So it's a strange situation. And Thompson loves Bader, and he's been hitting the ball well, and he plays hard. So that's your dilemma right there. That's how it all plays out. It seems like he just pencils in 3 guys, matchup, whatever it may be, every other night.
And is that a recipe in your mind, watching this team? Is this a recipe for a long playoff run, that you can keep pushing the right buttons every single night like this?
It makes it hard, doesn't it?
Yeah, it feels like it.
It does, and it's kind of like nobody. I don't know. My feeling outside look. Well, I'm not outside looking anymore. I'm kind of there all the time. But my feeling is I would rather pencil in 3 outfielders and maybe platoon 1. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Lefty, righty, whatever. He's platooning 5 guys. I don't think that's ideal going into playoffs. But like Rob Thompson said to us last night, he said, I'm not looking for 3 guys to be hot and I can put out there every night. I'm looking for all 5 of them to be hot. That's my ideal situation. That's what he's looking for. Whether it comes about or how it comes about, I guess is to be seen, Mike.
All right, he's looking for people to get hot. He needs Aaron Nola to do it. I mean, right now, you got about a month left in the season. Bob Cooney, do you have in your mind what this rotation will look like, or is this final month the tryout for these number 2 and number 3 spots in the playoff rotation?
Yeah, to me, no question. It's audition. Absolutely. I mean, you can't pencil in right now Aaron Nola at number 2, and if he goes out and does what he's done most of this season, you can't do that. I think they're full blown in audition phase right now as far as who's going to be, how the rotation's going to play out. Right now, in my mind, you have the 3 lefties, and then you go from there. And some people might say, well, you have to have Nola in there because he's done it before. And he had a good last outing, and he and I sat down and talked the other day, just the 2 of us, and he is so happy to be back. And he is has a new lookout on the season, and this Wheeler thing really got to him. Maybe we see a resurgence in Aaron Nola for the rest of this season, and it goes into the playoffs, and that changes what you do with the rotation. So I think the 3 lefties are your main guys right now, and then you look and see how Nola's doing and go from there.
Well, it's a big start for him tonight against a Braves team that's starting to turn around a little bit. They've won 2 straight here. They scored double-digit runs the last 2 nights. You're down on your luck. Citizens Bank Park, the place to be tonight. We'll see it all unfold. Bob Cooney from NBC Sports Philadelphia, a couple days off before he gets to Milwaukee. Big games coming up. Brewers, Dodgers down the road. Man, this NL is far from decided. Bob, enjoy the rest of the beach day, man.
Mike, you're the best. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it.
Take care. Bob Cooney, everybody, from NBC Sports Philadelphia, doing a great job covering that Phillies team for NBC Sports Philly. And, of course, right here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. We got so much more to go. I do want to get into this Micah Parsons deal. He got traded. Micah Parsons has been traded. We talked about it earlier. You know, I said this has the feeling that either – the deal, like when the news came out earlier that the Cowboys are listening, I said this in the 3 o'clock hour. When the news came out that the Cowboys are listening, that tells me either they get this deal done and this is like, hey, how come that news came out that said they're listening and then you signed him, or he gets traded. I don't think I felt that he was going to be traded, and here we are 2 hours later, and he gone.
So,
according to Jeremy Fowler, by the way, it looks like the Cowboys are getting 2 1s. Defensive tackle Kenny Clark in the deal. 2 first-round picks and Kenny Clark, who's a pretty good player, by the way.
I was going to say the Kenny Clark thing, I think, is probably the underrated part of this conversation because, remember, Clark is not just the guy they acquire in exchange for Parsons. He also replaces the departed DeMarcus Lawrence on the interior of the Packers D-line. So you have to give them credit.
Yeah, he was a first-round pick, too, by the way, Clark.
Right.
And he is a guy that, as you just mentioned, jumps into a spot of need for them at defensive tackle.
So to you, Mike, is 2 first-round picks in Kenny Clark enough of a return?
No. No way.
So was this just
Kenny
Dallas?
Clark's a good player. He's going to be 30 years old. I mean, he's a veteran player. I mean, he's a guy that, you know, he's not a long-term guy for you. And 2 firsts. I'm a little surprised it's just the 2. Now, they had to sign him to a 4-year extension. He gets a massive extension. By the way, Micah Parsons has posted a letter. And this letter looks like it was written pretty quickly. I mean, so he might have had this thing ready to go.
This
right?
was ready, baby.
This thing was ready. He basically...
He had an idea this was coming.
He did. I think I'm surprised that it wasn't more. Do
you think?
Put it this way.
Yeah.
The Cowboys are a team that I remember that made a trade of Herschel Walker and remade their whole roster.
True.
Right? And this feels like you should have gotten – maybe teams are smart enough now that they're not going to do that for you.
Well, that's what I was
but it
gonna
feels like it
ask.
should be bigger, don't you think?
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, which is, do you think Dallas realized that no one was going to give them anything better than this? And they said, you know what, we're not going to gripe about this. And because the team like the Packers might be saying, look, you can ask for more, but you're also asking us to pay this guy too.
That's a possibility. The fact that they had to sign him and make sure it's a 4-year, $188 million deal, by the way.
Yeah, I believe it was 136 guaranteed. So,
By the way, Packers-Cowboys Week 4, Sunday Night Football.
what's the over-under on the sacks in that game for Micah? That's
Well, and by the way, the trade is for at least 2 first-round picks. Well,
yeah, 2 first-round picks.
this is fluid.
So the breakdown is 136 million guaranteed of the 188. So the average annual value maximum he can make is 47 million a year, which makes him the highest non-paid quarterback in NFL history.
Yeah.
What's interesting is that you said it's at least 2 first-round picks. I wonder if there's one of those like caveats involved, where like, you know, if Micah does X, Y, Z, does it change things?
So we missed our unsportsmanlike moment of the day earlier today because we were a little short on time, but we'll do one right now. Here's what Michelle Smallman said this morning on Unsportsmanlike. Now, maybe not yet. Having a little glitch, little audio glitch over here. So, but she basically said this. Let me see if I can get that fixed here in a second. But I was listening to her talk about this morning. I just kind of thought about it as we're having this conversation. And she essentially said that he would fit on the Packers, that would be the spot to send him.
There was a few people who were saying that in the last few weeks. I know that Kay Adams on the FanDuel TV network, she's been advocating for the Packers to trade for him for like a month now. So there's been this sentiment out there the Packers would make a lot of sense. And, you know, the Packers are a team that, by the way, does not have an owner. So I wonder how
thankfully for them, they don't have one that can mess things up.
Right. So how much of this was the football guys not having other guy get in the way? You know what I mean? You know, Andrew Branford, you listen to his podcast, Mike. You know, he talks about how in Green Bay, that is a purely football operation.
All right. So this is what Courtney Cronin this morning talked about, the possibility of if the Packers were to trade for Micah Parsons. See if you agree with what she has to say about this. You know, because obviously now he's in the NFC, Parsons. He stays in the NFC. That's a big, big, big addition to the NFC. Now he's out of the NFC East. You don't have to play him twice, but you do play him this year. And remember, you played the Packers in the playoffs last year as well. So now, when you look, I like to see what the if the odds have updated their odds yet. But this is Courtney Cronin was on Unsportsmanlike this morning. Here's what she said this morning: if Micah Parsons were to get traded to Green Bay.
If you add the premier pass rusher in the NFL right now, you instantly become the top of the list Super Bowl contender. I know we were talking about Mike T's list yesterday and who can actually dethrone the Philadelphia Eagles. Would the Eagles be in that mix even? I think above the Eagles. If this happens to the Green Bay Packers, they are instantly the representative coming out of the NFC that you expect to be in the Super Bowl.
That's our Unsportsmanlike moment of the day there. Courtney Cronin filling in on Unsportsmanlike weekday morning 6 to 10. She says they're above the Eagles. They're the favorite.
I wouldn't go that far, but I thought she just mentioned Mike Tannenbaum. I have a Mike Tannenbaum tweet that just dropped moments ago, Mike. I thought it was very interesting insight. He says, if Dallas would have made this decision in March to trade Micah Parsons, the compensation would have been significantly higher because more teams would have had the salary cap, the time to put a trade together for Dallas. It's virtually unheard of to have a 26-year-old elite pass rusher in the prime of his career available in trade. So Tannenbaum is saying, you know, if Dallas was smart,
if Dallas was smart,
they would have made
those two words don't
ago.
go together. If I'm a Dallas fan, I honestly am furious right now, and I'm saying, you know what? I've had it. This is enough.
Well,
this guy's a clown show. He's a half-ass clown show. That's what I'm doing.
You good?
No. I'm trying to get my point out. You're telling me about Desmond Washington. The hell with Desmond Washington. This guy's a half-ass clown show. He is a complete used car salesman. He's an absolute joke of an owner, except for in one area. He's a good marketing guy. He knows how to market to the biggest bunch of idiots there is out there. Hey, be a fan of my team so I can screw you over and over. He just traded this guy for 2 first-round picks and a 30-year-old defensive tackle. Now, if you told me, hey, listen, we knew we can't get the deal done, and we ended up getting 4 first-round picks or 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and a third or something like that, and we're going to remake this roster, all right, that's a different situation. I don't know how people keep getting browbeaten by this clown carnival barker out there in Dallas. Shame on these people who don't live in Dallas and yet put so much time and energy into that joke of an organization for the last 30 years. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, a famous Cowboy fan, Denzel Washington, was on First Take a few weeks ago, and he pretty much said what you were saying about Jerry, that he loves the Cowboys. He's been a fan of them since he was a kid, but he doesn't love Jerry Jones. And he doesn't love, he says, if he said that Jerry Jones makes it hard to be a Cowboys fan anymore.
He's not wrong. I mean, from the outside looking in, it's the easiest thing to see is, man, I feel bad for people who have to deal with that clown show. Like if that was a team that I somehow backed into, you know, my My uncle, he put me in front of the TV, and they had a star on their helmet, so I've been with them ever since. Good for you. When you grew up and noticed that the team was 1,500 miles from here, you didn't have half a brain to say, this is stupid, and I'm now an adult, and I'm going to get out of this stupid relationship. When you're a kid, you have relationships. You stop playing with toys at some point, and then you grow up. When you grew up, you should have said, I'm leaving this dirtbag team behind.
By the way, Andrew Brand, who I mentioned earlier, just put out a tweet. He says, reminder, contract information is from the agents. We'll see what the real deal is later.
Probably. I mean, the contract thing, it is what it is. It's this, that. He got a ton of money. But as Tannenbaum said, if they would have made this trade when they should have made the trade in March, they would have got more. Now, I still think they should have got more. Especially if I'm trading them into the conference.
I feel like Dallas would just.
But I agree with Tannenbaum.
Yeah.
And basically, I got my somebody texted me saying they did not get enough. I agree. My first incarnation is they didn't get enough.
I agree, but like Tannenbaum said, this is what happens when you wait till the start of the season. Teams have already got their salary caps, their rosters, they got all the logistics already in place. It's hard to find a team. You mentioned the Eagles. You knew they weren't trading to the Eagles because the Eagles are in the division. So Dallas had to find somebody not in the NFC East who is not run by an idiot, like Dallas is run by an idiot, who is going to be willing and able to make this deal happen.
It cracks me up over and over and over, the mistakes that they make running this team. Cracks me up over. You have an elite player like that, and it's not that they didn't want to pay him. It's that they couldn't figure out how to get the deal done. But they figured out a deal for CD. They figured out a deal for Dak and Ezekiel Elliott at one point.
Rachel Nichols just posted a picture from last year when Micah Parsons exchanged his Cowboys jersey with Luka Doncic for a Mavs jersey.
Yeah,
and the caption says, rough year for Dallas sports fans in the metro market.
Saw that. Sports Pass Live, brought to you by White Horse RV Center in Williamstown and Galloway. Don't miss the Red Tag clearance event going on now at White Horse RV. Your adventure starts at White Horse RV. All right. We'll finish up on the other side. Thanks to Bob Cooney from NBC Sports Philadelphia for jumping on board as well. Phils and Braves getting ready 1 week from the Eagles, and Micah Parsons has been traded to the Packers. We got you. All right, 534 Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. I'm Mike Gill. All right, so Micah Parsons traded to the Packers. Big story, obviously, before the start of the season. Tonight, 97.3 ESPN has football back. Cincy, Nebraska. Matt Rule's Cornhuskers taking on the Bearcats. That is a the alma mater of one Travis and Jason Kelsey. Cole from LBI says, Jerry Jones is a clown show, but they are no dumpster fire like my Jets. Cole, I like how you can put a good spin on that. Yes, not like the Jets. Mike, when you said 2 number ones, I was waiting for the rest. Yeah, I was a little surprised. And Tannenbaum said if they would have done this. Now, I don't know back in March that they ever thought that this was going to get to this point. No, it's funny. 2 hours ago, that same guy texted in and said, Jones is totally bluffing. That was at 3:25 today. That guy texted in. He said, Jones is totally bluffing, because this is when we were talking about it. And I said, either they get the deal done and on Monday or Tuesday, or he gets traded like now. And 2 hours later, he's gone. So I agree with you. When I said 2 number ones and I was reading the compensation from Schefter, I was a little surprised by that. And most people, it looks like, are also saying that the Cowboys did not do a great job in this trade.
Also, earlier today, Michael Irvin guaranteed the Cowboys are not trading Micah Parsons. So, seems like a lot of people had some.
See, this is why I don't listen to these player podcast shows. I get the Cam Newton one with that ridiculous comment. Now I got Michael Irvin. I don't listen or talk or listen or watch any of the player shows.
Well, you got to listen to the people who are actually not just there for the clicks. You just said that Earnshaw last hour. You said these people say this stuff to rile people like Earnshaw up. I don't watch those people. I only know Michael Irvin said it because somebody screenshot and put it on Twitter.
Yeah, well, the Micah Parsons thing, you wonder, all right. Well, he has been saying for, in his podcasts, which I don't watch or listen to either, but he's been saying there that he's not happy, and he has made references to, how crazy this whole situation has turned into.
So if I can take you on a bit of a chronological journey here, because you mentioned Micah's podcast. Remember last year when he criticized the Cowboys at the end of the year, and he said, we need to be better. He says, I expect us to be better. This offseason, Jerry and Micah had a one-on-one conversation, and Jerry claimed that he walked out of it saying, I think we're going to have a deal done soon. Then Micah's agent got involved.
Right.
And then Micah's agent basically said there is no deal done. And then that's when Jerry started this rampage against David Mulligetta, who's one of the top agents in the business, basically saying that the guy is basically trying to make it sound like that Mulligetta was trying to scam the Cowboys and Micah. And that's when Micah was like, well, you can't be throwing my agent on the bus here. And then Micah went on his podcast again and said, I want to be in Dallas, but I need to get a deal done. And then Jerry this past month has been ramping up all of his shenanigans, we'll call it, right? Going on different shows and interviews and saying his piece. Who I haven't heard for months? Micah's agent.
Well, this is from Trevor Sakema, who covers the draft for Pro Football Focus. Not the draft. He covers he's the lead draft analyst and host of the NFL show on Pro Football Focus. He said Clark is 29, coming off his worst year as a pass rusher. He's going to be in a similar four-down front in Dallas. He hasn't had a single season run defensive grade above 61 in 4 years, and his contract is getting more expensive after this season. I can't, man. So that's the player that Dallas got back in return for Micah Parsons.
Yeah, Kenny Clark.
Which is, and Clark, again, not an awful player, but like I said, he's going to be 30 years old. He's a declining player, and 2 first-round picks. That's the compensation.
Listen, I know a lot of people are going to point to Micah as the winner in all this because of how much money he's making, but I think Micah is winning because he's getting out of a situation that's going to implode very, very soon. I still don't believe in, Mike, you remember I said months ago, I don't believe that we're going to get through a whole season with George Pickens being the good soldier.
Did you see Andrew Brandt? He got a text from his buddy who, Andrew Brandt, by the way, was a former front office executive with the Packers. He says, I favor the Packers in this trade. That is some understatement. I live in the worst sports town ever. Yeah, not too many people are... Look, this feels like the Luka Doncic trade that everybody just feels like
same town.
The Cowboys got the worst end of the deal.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I can't. This is a good one from Doug Farrar from the Bleacher Report. He said the Jets got 2 first-round picks for Jamal Adams. That's how terrible this Micah Parsons trade is.
I agree in that there's been players of lesser stature at different at positions that are less valuable. You get an elite pass rusher, that's the guy. That's the pinnacle. You find on defense a guy's a pass rusher. And they got less than you just mentioned Jamal Adams.
A safety who can't even cover.
Yeah, he fell off a cliff.
He fell off a cliff real quick.
609-403-0973. So when the Eagles play the Cowboys on Thursday night, this will be kind of hovering over the whole story. I mean, the whole game, right? This will be the open. This will be Now, what gets more billing, this or the fact that the Super Bowl champions are playing?
This is going to be all they're going to talk about most of the day and night. The Eagles are going to win the game probably, 38-14 or something, and half the day it's going to be on the broadcast. Man, can you believe they traded Micah Parsons?
Well, I mean, I'm wondering, because there is a window of a whole week.
Think people will get out of their system?
I don't know, because the NBC broadcast that does the game on Thursday night
they don't have a ramp
their
up.
first opportunity. Right. So I imagine you are going to get a ton of reaction.
By the way, Jordan Schultz, he just put out a tweet. He says, teams around the entire NFL are laughing at Jerry Jones and the Cowboys right now for so many reasons. Trading a generational player, Micah Parsons, 1 week before the season starts is diabolical.
That's pretty much my take is they absolutely didn't get enough and hit the panic button here.
Ross Tucker from people see him on the Eagles preseason games with Scott Graham from the Ross Tucker pod. He's been on with you, Mike Gill, here on 97.3. He says, on the bright side, Cowboys fans, now you get to see those 2 late first-round picks on guys that won't even be close to as good as Micah Parsons.
So another thing is, if Micah Parsons goes to Green Bay, they've been a playoff team. They would think that. Now, listen, we heard what Courtney Cronin said earlier. I don't know that this automatically makes them the favorite in the NFC. I mean, they were already a good team. But I will say one thing the Packers kind of lacked is that player on defense. That player on defense that really makes you
scares you.
Yeah, like that you have to game plan for. That's one of the things that they were lacking.
I mean, they haven't had that since Charles Woodson.
Yeah, Matthews.
Yeah, but Matthews wasn't always healthy. So, it was kind of like Woodson was a guy that completely changed that defense so much they won a championship because of it.
Andrew Brandt tweeted out, what seems to set this trade in motion was Jerry Jones doing what they used to do in the old days. Hotbox a player to get him to sign without an agent. That was done decades ago. Not going to fly today. That was the beginning of the end. Jerry Jones still acting like it's 1989. I love it. You act like it's 1989. You what's the
get
saying?
left behind.
Right. You play with the bull, you get the horns. That's what ends up happening there. This is one of those trades that you just don't see happen, right? Especially at this time of this player of this magnitude at this stage of the offseason. Who does Green Bay play in the first week of the season? Let's take a look.
I think they play the Lions, don't they?
That would be juicy, right? A little Green Bay Lions game. That would be in my Friday my Friday 5. Next Tuesday we'll be back on the air. We're off on Monday, but will be the start of this year's Who's In, Who's Out. Well, I will tell you who the 14 playoff teams will be. On Wednesday's show, we will have the NFL Fine 5 to start the season and the NFL Ugly 5 to start the season.
They do open the week with the Lions.
Is that a Sunday night game?
That is a 4:25 on CBS, so It's a Romo game. Romo Nance.
Yeah, they're getting a big one there.
By the way, you want to hear the first 4 games for the Packers? Because you mentioned they have Dallas week 4. So they got Detroit, then the Washington Commanders, Mike Gill. How about that for 2 straight weeks? Micah versus, top-ranked quarterbacks, right? Then they get an easy game. They're at the Browns. They get the Cowboys. But, yeah, out of the gate, Lions-Commanders. That Commanders game, by the way, Thursday night football. So a 4:25 and then a Thursday night game for Micah's new team, the Green Bay Packers.
All right, Sports Bash. By the way, the Cowboys make a big move trading Micah Parsons. The Eagles made a couple small moves.
They're a smart organization.
They signed earlier Marcus Epps late last night, and then today, Britton Covey is back with the Eagles.
Still haven't seen that announcement, have you?
Well, he was on the field with a jersey.
That's what I mean. There's no way, like.
No, but DeCecco said they did announce it on their website. But I haven't seen anybody else announce it. But the Eagles did lose 2 players. Safety Tristan McCollum has been claimed off waivers by Vegas, and offensive lineman Trevor Keegan has been claimed off waivers by Dallas. So the Cowboys saying, hey, the Eagles know what they're doing with offensive linemen. We don't. Let's go get one of them, and we'll trade Micah Parsons. Big day for the Cowboys today.
Big day, right?
On one end of the building, you traded Micah Parsons. On the other end of the building, you
got Trevor Keegan.
Ink to paper with Trevor Keegan.
Yeah, it's a solid trade.
Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, and live video on the X platform, YouTube at Mike Gill Show. We'll close out the show next. All right, get ready to get out of here on Thursday night. I can't believe a week from tonight we're going to be getting ready for the Eagles, and the Cowboys won't have Micah Parsons. He got traded, if you are just tuning in. He is now a member of the Green Bay Packers. How about that?
Is it bad? The first thing I thought of is, man, those picks have taken the Cowboys under on the team total earlier this year. It sounds pretty smart now.
Well, listen, I think a lot of people were torn on this team. I think they're healthy, which there was a big problem for them last year. Their injuries were a major problem for them. Can they stay healthy? We'll see. We'll see if that team, with the health, they got Pickens, and you thought, hey, that could be an interesting one. I know we haven't been doing the play of the day recently, but you got college football back. NC State 2-touchdown favorite over East Carolina tonight. Wolfpack haven't covered as a double-digit favorite in about 3 years. Go Pirates! East Carolina play tonight. There you go. That's my college football start of the season for you there. That's a freebie. They're not even giving me anything for that.
That's true.
What game are you watching tonight?
You know,
Phillies or college football?
I'm going to watch the Phillies until the Nebraska game starts.
Well, Cincinnati's a 6.5-point dog tonight.
Take Nebraska.
Cincinnati 0-7 against the spread as a 4-point or more doggy dog.
Didn't even need to know that.
You think Nebraska's poised for finally, this is Rule's, what, third year there?
Usually that third, fourth year is when he starts really escalating. And they got a quarterback in his second year there. You know, I think Raiola's going to have a good year, and I think that they've built that offensive line.
College football's back.
Love it.
A lot of fun.
You know, it's my time of year. So
I know.
I'm all about this.
Yeah, I know. All right, that's it for us. Back tomorrow on a happy hour Friday. I've had a long day.
Yes, you have.
I'll have another long day tomorrow.
Then you get the weekend.
Yeah. I don't know what I'm feeling about the Phils tonight. I was going to offer something on the Phils, and then Nola's pitching. They're at home. Do they bust out tonight and just kind of get back on track? Or does this like kind of gloom and doom continue for this Phillies in the offense? Nola, though, 2-7 with a 6.52 ERA. He has got to pitch better. He has to start pitching better. It cannot be a fait accompli that he's in the starting rotation if he continues to pitch with those numbers right there. That's what I'm watching tonight. I'm back with you guys tomorrow right here on the Sports Bash.